good, Sterling? You got it figured out?
No, I'm not.
Is there paper jam when it says there's no paper jam? When there is no paper jam?
I'm about to go office space.
Why does it say that?
I'm about to go office space on that printer right now.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. Just taking that printer out. Sterling's been running around the last 5 minutes. Drake! Printer's not working, Drake! I need help. I don't know why he sounds like Rocky yelling for Adrian. Drake! If I could change, you could change. Anybody could change. The paper in the printer. I don't know what to do. Do I load more paper in here? Drake, there's no paper.
Okay, no, I know that fixed. This one is legit.
How do I send a fax, Drake? I don't know. I was born 5 minutes ago. Can't I just 3D print this thing?
Okay, so I don't know how a 3D printer works.
I actually don't know.
That was a very bold assumption.
That thing is so beyond the way my mind works. It's like, hold on, how are you 3D printing something? It's just...
What is it made out of?
Right, 3D. It's made out of 3Ds, you know?
DVDs turn to...
I don't know what they are, man, but let's get into the show. 913-912-4810. The text line to be a part of the show on this Thursday. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. We have some NFL football that we will talk today as we will hang out with Matt Lane, KC Sports Network. We'll talk with Price Carter from Arrowhead Addict coming up at noon. We will play some sports or the leisure today in the 1 o'clock hour presented by Johnny's Tavern. We'll talk some Rawls baseball today. Matt Verderam yesterday on the show had dropped a nugget about the Rams wanting Ashton Gelati to the point that they were willing to trade a second-rounder to move up to get him. From Mike Silver talking about that because Mike Silver was in the Jags war room, which, by the way, would be a pretty badass assignment. One time, you want to talk about bucket lists? If I had a wish, like the Make-A-Wish thingy, if I had a wish, it might be to hang out in the war room with the Chiefs. Just to see how the whole thing goes down. Not when Pioli and them were there, but this front office.
I don't know. It could be fun with Pioli, too, honestly.
That's true.
I was about to say, it might be more fun with someone.
Who's that guy?
Yeah. Incompetence might be more fun.
Let's take him. But that would be awesome. I would love to be under, at least, give the representation that I'm some sort of a journalist, that's why I'm there.
Yeah.
Right? Or the Make-A-Wish just to hang out in the war room one time. Mike Silver got to do that for The Athletic with the Jags and has, I think it's 102-page long book that he wrote about it. But one of those parts of this very long, intricate, detailed story in the war room with the Jags is about their third-round pick and a player they wanted and a player another team wanted and potential draft scenarios that went away when the Chiefs sat there at pick number 66. And their Route 66 was to a defensive end from Louisville. The Cardinals, by way of 64 West and 70, I don't think he drove, but he might have. I'm not sure. Maybe he's afraid to fly like Sterling. I don't know. Or Nick Jacobs. He's afraid to fly.
Hey, I fly all the time.
Yeah, but Nick Jacobs doesn't. And I don't know. Was that? I hope I didn't say that at a turn. I hope not. But Sterling does. But Ashton Gelati is a Chief, and we'll get into that. It's an interesting story about the conversation, only because it is surrounding somebody the Chiefs took at number 66. That many people like that selection. I certainly love the selection. We've talked about that. The counting stats being down. Jeff Brom, we had him on Monday, and he talked about, I asked him why the counting stats, why the sack numbers were different this year than a year ago, and said, look, the pressures were the same. Sometimes you get to the quarterback, sometimes you don't, but the pressures were the same. The win rate, the amount of pressures that he had. Sometimes, the quarterback gets rid of the ball a little bit earlier in that game than in years past, or the previous year. Also, a buddy that hosts postgame for them said, they were using them different ways. when you've got a couple of defensive ends and defensive linemen that had moved on to the NFL, and this is your guy on the defensive line, they were using him in different ways to create mismatches, and the other offensive line was, hey, there's that guy. That's the guy we're paying attention to. And in college, look, Chris Jones in the NFL is different because he's a Hall of Famer. Going to be wearing a gold jacket. A good defensive lineman that goes in the second/early third round is probably not somebody that he's taking on ACC double teams that's just going to be moving guys around and still getting the sack numbers, still getting the pressures, but the sack numbers weren't there, but maybe other guys' sack numbers were. It's like what Ryan Sims did for Julius Peppers. You know, Ryan Sims took on all those double teams. He walked so Julius Sims could fly, or Julius Peppers could fly. That's what Ryan Sims did, according to the Chiefs. But we'll get into all of that, and we'll talk with Matt Lane, get his thoughts on the draft, Price Carter, get his thoughts on the draft. Let's start with the Kansas City Royals and Noah Cameron. His debut last night and short-lived time with the Royals. He has been optioned to AAA, has Noah Cameron. As about 10 minutes ago, that news came down from the Royals. Taylor Clark, right-handed pitcher, selected from Omaha. Noah Cameron optioned, and James MacArthur was transferred to the 60-day IL. But they brought up Taylor Clark, right-handed reliever from AAA, and optioned Noah Cameron back to Omaha, which means that they expect Cole Reagans. Either they expect Cole Reagans to make his next start, or Noah, we're going to have Taylor Clark the next few days. We're optioning you, but you actually can take the trip with us to Baltimore. Like, is that okay? Like, if you're going to be starting in Baltimore, just ride with us. Just come on the plane with us. You don't need to go to Omaha. You're just going to go straight from Tampa to Baltimore with us, and then we'll make another subsequent move when it's Reagan's turn in the rotation. That certainly could be the case. So it's either or. No reason to have Noah Cameron up when you can option him. And you can bring up a reliever because you won't need Noah Cameron until Cole Reagan's next turn in the rotation against Baltimore, if you need him at all. So let's talk about Noah Cameron and his debut last night. And it was fun watching it. It was interesting, and Ryan was mentioning it too, and I was in complete agreement. For a guy that was working in the strike zone as often as he was, and sort of, hey, throw strikes, let the other team hit it, he still ended up with 5 walks.
Yeah.
So it was like, this guy's got command, he's got control, he's throwing strikes, they're putting the ball in play, letting the defense play, and still ended up with 5 walks, oddly enough. So it was a weird way to sort of describe what we watched from Noah Cameron, except one word that stands out above all else is efficient. You got a 5-pitch first inning. It's efficient. And maybe the Rays, their game plan was to jump all over this kid because he's going to be throwing strikes. And he's not going to want to get wild and throw a bunch of balls or anything. Let's ambush him. Let's get after him early, which didn't seem to be the smart way of going about it. And he was awesome. The defense was awesome outside of the Biggio play at second base.
Yeah.
That I thought it was just an awful play until Rex said that. And if you did it in slow motion, maybe there'd be a little more grace for Biggio, but he's a big leaguer. The ball looked like it was going to take a hop that would be right where his glove is. And when it hit the dirt the second time, it just laid. It just hit the dirt and died and stayed on the ground. But still, you're a major leaguer. You do have to make that play.
You're taught to keep the glove down.
Yeah, down to up. Down to up. Work down to up if you're hey, kids out there, down to up. So that's the misplay. Hunter Renfroe had a great play in right field.
Yeah.
Bobby Witt, great play. Like, they had some awesome plays in the game. Bobby Witt, multiple awesome plays. Was it Massey the other night, or was it Massey last night that ended up no, Massey last night that had his foot on the bag, right? Was it the other night? I can't remember.
Yeah,
there were so many good when he had to throw to second because Chandler Simpson was running to first. It might have been the other night. I'm not sure, but all of these things run together because there's been such good defense that has been played there in Tampa. Let's play this clip from yesterday for no reason whatsoever except for, Mick Schaefer and I were talking. You were part of the conversation too, Sterling. You just didn't weigh in on this because maybe you lacked confidence. I'm not sure. But here's Mick and I. We're talking about Noah Cameron in Tampa before the game, obviously, to what may happen. Noah Cameron, growing up in St. Joe, chilling at the belt, all around it, he ain't going to be intimidated by the Rays. He's not going to be intimidated by Steinbrenner Field.
Noah runs from the Rays.
Noah hits tonight is what he'll allow, you know what I mean? Yeah, killed it. Noah runs and Noah hits until the 7th. The second part that I said, I don't know why Dylan cut it off there, but I said Noah hits until 1 out in the 7th.
So I was being facetious, but remember when I said he's going to do an Edwin Jackson?
I don't remember you saying that at all.
Well, he's gonna. How long is he gonna go? 4 innings, maybe 5. I think he's gonna go complete game shutout, no hitter. I think he's gonna walk a lot of guys and throw 148 pitches. I was pretty nailed with the Edwin Jackson
except for
call.
the not many pitches at all, except for the fact that he only threw 79 pitches.
Well, there
were
still 2 2/3 left.
There were. If he was just in the regular rotation, he would have stayed out there. But his debut, you're up 3-0. He's been pretty pitch efficient. He's going through the lineup again. They're seeing him again. That's the perfect time to me. I would have done exactly what Quattrero did. Left him in the game until he gave up a hit. And at that point, he gave up a hit. Great job, son. Go get the ball. Tip your cap. By the way, shout out to a number of Rays fans that when he was walking over to the dugout, there were a few people wearing a Rays shirt, a Rays jersey, that were standing up and clapping for him. That's pretty awesome. That was really cool to see that, recognizing somebody's debut and how he pitched in the game. That was cool. Family there, as nervous as his dad was. How about his dad being interviewed by Joel Goldberg when Bobby Witt makes that play? And it's just great. Like his mom's wearing the Cameron jersey and his sister's wearing a Bobby Witt jersey, because they didn't have to buy the Royals gear yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And his dad's saying he got word on Saturday night after the Reagans, or just Saturday night, whatever, that, hey, you can't tell anybody, but you're going to need to be in Tampa on Wednesday. You're going to need to be in Tampa on Wednesday, but you cannot say anything, okay? And it was really cool to see him out there pitch. And obviously the story about St. Joe, Central Arkansas, a guy grew up watching the Royals, watching Salvi. Joel Goldberg, funny after the game when he was interviewing Noah Cameron talking about the horse and was like, who knows what Rex is talking about? He goes, but you grew up listening to him, so you know. It's a Noah Cameron. Like, it's one of those dream things that so many kids in the Kansas City area right now would be dreaming of what Noah Cameron was able to experience last night. Those are the times when sports are really cool. The Halliburton Giannis, that sucks. Sports are dumb. The arguing on Twitter, the screaming and yelling about this guy sucks and that guy's awesome and Mahomes is overrated and all of the stupid stuff that takes place and the Jordan LeBron conversations, those get so mundane and dumb and it takes so many things too seriously. Where then last night you're like, you know what, just sit back and enjoy the story of what that was of a kid growing up watching his hometown team, rooting for his hometown team, and his sister saying what's going on right now is 25 years in the making for him to be out there throwing to Salvi, talking to Joel after the game is over, things that he was doing 15 years ago as a 10-year-old, doing some of those things is pretty cool.
Well, and we had talked about it, how we thought there was a legit chance that he might have been on the opening day roster. It was tough. We were like, do they go with a 6-man rotation early? Because with Chris Bubich and how many innings can he give you? Chris Bubich has been phenomenal and it's actually exceeded expectations. But they kept Noah Cameron stretched out down there in Omaha, and they were rewarded with it. Which, again, we can have a longer conversation on this, but the pitching staff and the development and the identifying talent has had a massive shift in the past 3 to 5 years. And Noah Cameron is another example of this. It's becoming Tampa Bay. It's becoming Cleveland, where a guy gets called up, not a top 100 prospect in baseball. Now he was the 5th top prospect in Kansas City's minor league system. He's 25, so it's not a super young guy, but still come up. Most people in Major League Baseball have never heard of Noah Cameron, and he goes out and dazzles. And again, I think the Royals staff needs a lot of credit for this. We've been very critical on the hitting side, but give credit where credit's due. They have overhauled that pitching side, and these are the results. Again, Noah Cameron for him, what a incredible feeling. We talked about, I know Dylan was a pretty big proponent of, you're pitching in a winter league, training camp, sort of spring training stadium. That helps. It's a little more calming.
Double A
third
stadium.
deck. What McRae said.
Brian McRae, that third deck, Double A stadium. It's what he's used to be traveling around and playing in the Double A and Triple A stadiums. So maybe that helped.
And so I do think there's something to that. You get that first out of the way, get the nerves out of the way, and now it shows that, hey, I can do this. I'm a big leaguer. I can go out, and I'm not saying the Rays' offense is phenomenal, but that's not a brutal lineup by any means. And he was able to control the game. How often as a rookie can you control the game? He controlled it.
Yeah. And it is something that I do think we can definitely get into and talk about is what we're seeing in the development. And
Do you know when the last pitcher that made his MLB debut and threw a no-hitter was? He was also the only one. According to MLB Pipeline's
I was going to look that up last night to see if it's ever happened before.
It said it happened in 1892.
That doesn't count.
So I also agree, and they don't have a name here. So.
I was going to look it up as well. Does the longest stretch of no-hit innings for a debut?
Good question.
Because this was 6 1/3.
Yeah.
So he
Feels
got
like Curtis
19
will tweet that out
batters.
here in
Yeah,
like an hour.
19 outs before he gave up his first hit.
What was the guy's name? He had to have a great nickname.
Oh, that's a good point.
1892.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, he
Big
was
Big Boss.
No, it's Ashcan Carey.
Even better.
Ashtray Charlie.
Bumpus Jones.
Yes.
Bumpus.
One and only pitcher has thrown a no-hitter in their debut. Bumpus Jones of the Cincinnati Reds.
Bumpus Jones, man.
October,
obviously
man,
from
in the big lights too.
From the famous Jones family of baseball back in the 1890s.
All the Jones.
I'll say
Jones.
this.
Keeping up with him was tough back then.
It was.
Rob Manfred has tried
That's
so
actually
hard.
where this came from. That saying came from. Keeping up with Bumpus Jones.
Was Bumpus Jones.
Well,
because nobody could keep up with him in that first in his debut.
Found it.
Everybody keeps trying. Rob Manfred is trying to change and fix baseball, right? The issue is there's just not enough Bumpus Joneses anymore. You got to bring back Bumpus. Like that name has totally gone out of the American naming system.
Yeah.
And
Everything's cyclical, so it'll come back.
Yeah,
around.
we don't make Bumpuses anymore. We don't make Bumpus Jones
No, we
anymore.
don't.
There's a lot of names and people we don't make anymore as names. And Bumpus is one of them.
Bumpus Holmes really, I feel like
You're saying that there might be something that's made. There might be a Bumpus that's made again. We named Everett because it wasn't a very popular name at the time, and we really liked it, obviously. And it's like, you know what? This is a name we really like, and it's not a name that is really popular. And so, like, Jack is a family name for my wife. Her middle name is Jacqueline, so we're like, all right, Jackson, some of it, maybe his first name's Jackson. I'm like, well, you know what? For Bo Jackson, that makes sense. And she's like, no, for my family name. I'm like, call it whatever you want. That's fine. Whatever way you want to go and help yourself sleep at night, that's perfectly fine. But, as long as if it's Jackson, then we know what it's for. It's because of Bo, obviously. And it was like, you know what? If we do that, he's going to have like 6 Jacksons in his class. He's going to play on a team with like 7 Jacksons, and everybody's going to be named Jackson. And we're like, you know what? We really like Everett. Let's go with Everett. And he's had like, an Everett in every class, and he's had Everetts on his teams in basketball and everything. And I'm like, no Jacksons. No Jacksons. Like, why is everybody naming the kid Everett now? Huh? I know it's cool. I know it's a kick-ass name. I get it. That's why we named him that. It's pretty awesome. But like, stop copying off us, you know what I mean?
Shockingly, not many Sterlings. 0 in high school.
Not making many
just
Sterlings
me.
anymore. Dylan's still being made. Not many Jasons being made anymore. We don't make many Jasons anymore.
There's a good amount of Dylans.
Yeah.
Well, Patrick Mahomes liked my name so much.
Convention grows every year.
Yeah, a lot of trays. Trays are being made all the time.
Yeah. Instead of a baby bump, is it a baby bumpus?
Oh, I like that one. Yeah, you got a baby bumpus. You would have a baby bumpus.
Yeah.
Baby bumpus Sterling. Uncle Baby Billy Bumpus.
That man.
If you didn't say it, I was about to. So.
Uncle Baby Billy. Come on now. Uncle Baby Billy, come on over here, Uncle Baby Billy Bumpus. Like we were talking about, Noah Cameron. Awesome last night, and really cool to see his debut. Let's go ahead and hear from Noah and Joel Goldberg last night after the game was over. We'll get into some of the development that Sterling was talking about, and maybe the faith that is restored in the Royals organization where a complete and total lack thereof. But also, a couple of days ago, I was going to talk about this yesterday, but I didn't want every Royals conversation to be about the offense. So we discussed a little of the offense to start the show yesterday, and Sam McDowell wrote about it a couple of days ago that I wanted to weigh in and look at a couple of the teams that he mentioned in terms of the offensive inefficiency and what that means historically for making the playoffs. But here's Noah Cameron with Joel Goldberg after his debut of 6 1/3 one-hit baseball, but also 6 1/3 no-hit baseball in his debut.
Well, as you might imagine, and no, Huddy did not come in on a horse. Hud says crazy things. He grew up watching it. I won't bother to explain that one. Congratulations, your big league debut. A no-hitter into the 7th, a win. What are the emotions like for you?
Oh, man. You can't explain it, You can't put words into it. Dream come true, obviously, just being able to throw for the Royals, It's just, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. I have a lot of family here. And, yeah, there's just no words to describe it.
Hud couldn't get over it. None of us could. You make your big league debut, 5 pitches in the first inning. We've never seen that before. What are you thinking at that point? I know it's not that easy.
Yeah, I'm thinking I like this defense up here. Just attack the zone and just kind of let them do their thing. Obviously, Bobby making plays. Everybody making plays out there for me. So it makes it easy. It makes the game simple and it makes it easy. Just attack the zone and let them hit it.
You're not a stranger to these guys. You spent time in the big league clubhouse with them. We all know Bobby Witt Jr., but when you see him make that play in the hole, you see Hunter Renfroe. What are your thoughts off the bat there as it goes off the bat and then caught by Renfroe? What are you thinking?
My first thought was, man, I owe these guys dinner already, and I just got here. So, it just makes pitching a lot easier, when you don't have to do it yourself and you just trust your stuff and you just let them put it in play and see what happens. It makes it a lot easier.
You were throwing to a guy that you watched growing up in Salvador Perez, who ironically made his debut against the Rays over on the other side of the bay in St. Pete 14 years ago. You would have been, 11 years old or something like that. Tell me what it's like to throw to a guy that you grew up watching.
It's something that you always dream about. I think growing up in St. Joe, like Salvi was our guy. Salvi was the guy that we all wanted to throw to. In high school and college, it was just like Salvi. So it's awesome. He's just a leader and a captain, and you just trust him. When I'm unsure of what I want to throw, you just trust him, and he takes care of the rest.
All right, last 2 things. We got to get you out of there because they're going to want to celebrate you. At what point, if at all, are you thinking, wait, we got a no-hitter going here?
It occurred to me. We always know, but obviously gave it up in the end. But yeah, it was a good ride. So good win.
Last thing, your family's up there. We talked to your dad and got to meet your mom, your siblings. You're the baby in the family. Augie, your son, is up there too. What does it mean to have all of them? Your sister was saying he has been working on this for 25 years.
Yeah. It's special. Obviously all of them flying down here to Tampa. There's no words. Just love them to death, and they've always supported me through everything, and just can't thank them enough, and I just love them. Just love them to death.
I know all of St. Joe and Kansas City and Royals fans all over loved every minute of it. Congratulations on your big league debut. Many more to come.
Yes, sir. Here we go.
All right, Noah Cameron, what a night for him, guys. He'll never forget it. We won't either.
Awesome stuff, man. It's so cool, and can only imagine what it was like to be there, the family, and Noah Cameron. And you know what? Here's the thing. We're talking about the debut, but it's also the Royals got to win.
Yeah.
Vinny hits a home run to start off, crushed it.
Negative reinforcement helps.
Absolutely, man. That's what we've always said. Like, just keep talking about how bad Vinny's been, and he is going to get it figured. I'll show you. You know what I mean? although the home run report said it would not have been a home run in Kauffman. But you know where they weren't playing last night?
Kauffman.
You're damn right. So it was a home run last night. That's fine. And it's kind of what we talked about. Look, a smaller ballpark. Hey, maybe the offense can help can break out a little bit. And if seeing the ball go over the wall in whatever park you're in gets a little bit going for Vinny, hey, awesome. Heck yeah. Bobby extends his hitting streak to 21 games now. He continues to get that thing rolling. And we'll see what happens as they wrap up the series, try to go for the sweep over the Tampa Bay Rays, but they already won the series. The pitching has been brilliant since returning from the road trip. And the rough road trip, the pitching has been awesome. It continues to hold down the fort and carry this team. I think there is a good chance that that can continue. Not the shutouts and the one runs, but the way that they are pitching overall. And every night out, there isn't a guy on the mound where you go, Royals are going to have to score 6 runs tonight if they're going to win. Every guy on the mound, you're like, 2 runs could do it tonight. And that's good for this team because 2 runs may be all you get on a given night.
Belt to the bay.
Yeah,
more like belt to ass.
Oh yeah, right. I don't like that one around here though. I'm not a fan of that one because of what the Eagles went with. So I don't like that one with their T-shirts. But I get what you're saying there.
Yeah, but I'm trying to reclaim.
No, I get it. Reclaim it. Yes, that's right. Yes,
BTA.
Reclaim it. You can't use this to hurt us because we're saying belt to ass from Noah Cameron to the Rays. Take that, Philadelphia Eagles. And talking about the Chiefs, we're talking Royals around here. That's what we're doing.
They don't even have barbecue up there. They don't even do burn ends.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that don't do barbecue. They do cheesesteak, right? Yeah. They put some cheese. They put some
cheese on a steak.
Some of that canned stuff, and they do that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I do want to talk about the pitching development, what we're seeing right now, and also the runs that are lacking, the historical precedent with that, but also where the Royals stand in why they could be part of bucking the trend of history. We'll do that coming up next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We heard for so long, Sterling, about pitching being the currency in baseball with Dayton Moore at the helm and how expensive pitching is and why the Royals went the route that they did of having the bullpen being really, really, really good and not spending a boatload of money on a starting staff. Makes sense. Great strategy. Other teams have employed that strategy as well, making it a little more difficult to do that. That's a little bit what they have done this year with going and getting Carlos Estevez because they could not afford Santander. Thank goodness they couldn't afford him as he's playing right now on his almost $100 million contract and not playing well.
And this is only year one.
Year one of that. So goodness gracious that that did not work out. But there's a level of optimism. And you know what? I'll take out the word optimism. I'll just say belief at this point. And at one point, that would have been viewed as naive and in the face of all evidence to say, no, this one's different. No, this is going to be different. You've been married 8 times. No, this one's going to stick. Maybe there's something that's, I don't know, let's say a constant in this whole experiment. Let's say, what's the constant here in this?
A common denominator.
Yeah, there's got to be something. I just can't put my finger on.
It's not you, it's me. It actually probably is.
Always, it's always the other person. It's just one day they're going to find that magic needle to thread. But it was like every pitcher that came up, it felt like, okay, this is the guy now. This could be the guy for the Royals. And it just didn't work out. And we would see other teams develop pitching. And you're like, man, why can't the Royals do that? This guy was a 4th or 5th rounder. The Royals took a 1st rounder, and they're not developing those guys. Why are they not doing that? Why is Daniel Lynch not developing? Why is Brady Singer not picking up an extra pitch? Why is Chris Bubich doing what he's doing and just sort of a generic? Why is Jackson Kowar looking so amazing at times and then can't do anything at the big league level? Like, there's a 4A player, and then there's a guy who was untouchable in the minors that hasn't been nearly the same since then. But the list goes on and on and on of different players and pitchers specifically that they drafted, signed, whatever, and they couldn't develop. They weren't getting the most out of them when other teams were. And there was no belief, no faith that it was ever going to happen with the Royals because just simply they couldn't do it. And then Dayton Moore is relieved of his duties. J.J. Piccolo was hired the end of 2021. They go into one more year with Matheny. And then they make all of the changes really around 2022 when it's whether rehauling or overhauling and revamping everything with the pitching and the development in the minors, but also in the analytics and embracing that. Because with the Giants, it was like, well, Brian Bannister, this guy, spin rate and all these other things. Like at one point, it was like, yeah, this guy. I mean, when he was with the Royals, it was viewed as like a negative. Yeah. Like, well, this guy's a little too much. Like, he's talking about spin rate and all of these analytical things. Like, just go pitch. Like, just go be a pitcher out there. Well, he saw the future. He saw what was going to be the way that you could develop and get more life on certain pitches if you could work on certain things. And Paul Gibson, in overhauling and revamping everything, hiring Justin Friedman to be a guy who was, I mean, you hire a guy who's 25 years old and say, you think differently than other people I've been around as a pitcher. Let's get together and talk, and let's see if there's something here. Okay, there is something here. Let's hire you.
Yeah.
And let's have you be a part of what's going to be going on in this complete and total, revamping, as, they name him assistant director of pitching performance and strategist as a 25-year-old, and all of these advanced analytics and ways to go and do it. And we're seeing those things come to fruition. Noah Cameron coming up and pitching well. I mean, Noah Cameron was a guy that even 2 years ago, when they started to introduce it, or I should say a year ago when they started to introduce it, all of a sudden he was, one of the tops in baseball in strikeout to walk ratio. He was improving. Other pitchers were improving. Ben Kurtna developing. And it's not just blind faith, which is what I think it was before, in the face of all evidence showing the contrary. But I think there's tangible evidence with this. Daniel Lynch's development, Chris Bubic's development, Angel Zerpa's development. Noah Cameron being a guy that might have made the opening day roster, or quite frankly, might be pitching on other teams' rotations right now. There's probably plenty of teams out there that could be, he could be part of their rotation that are struggling. But that's where the Royals have come into the point to where we were talking about just a few years ago, Jordan Lyles and Zach Greinke and Brady Singer being the guys that they were the ones that you had to rely on those guys, man. Jordan Lyles was going to be, what he was? He was an innings eater. No, he wasn't. He was a starts eater. Because he wasn't eating innings, he was just eating starts.
Yeah.
Well, he's an innings eater. Well, he's only going 5 innings, but he's going 5 innings every 5 days. So he's a starts eater, not an innings eater. Let's replace the term with what he actually is. And a couple of years later, where you say Noah Cameron, there's no spot on the rotation right now, and the reason why you probably wouldn't trade him is because of the performance last night, and the fact that if somebody goes down, which happened with Waka last year, happened with Lorenzen last year, that if somebody misses a couple of starts, this guy can step in, and this is the guy you have that can come in and replace him, and not just some random Eduardo Villasís, not some of the other pitchers we've seen in years past to come up and make their debut and then never be heard from again. Like, no, this guy's sitting there because you probably need, if you're going to win a division, win a pennant, make the playoffs, you probably need 7 or 8 starters in your organization. 3 pretty good ones, a couple that are just representative to the 4th and 5th spot in the rotation, and a couple of guys that can hold their own and show up and not say you got to score 9 runs tonight to win because this guy's on the mound. And the Royals have at least 6 right now, it feels like, with the 5 they have and Noah Cameron. Not that there are 6 aces, but they've got some really good ones in Reagans and Lugo. Waka and Bubic and Lorenzen are not pitching to a representative 3-4-5. They're pitching better than that.
Yeah.
And certainly Bubic and Lorenzen as a 4 and a 5. And then you've got Noah Cameron, and I think there's going to be others after it. And J.J. Piccolo, and this is the point of saying where, well, it's going to be the same thing, Sterling. You're hiring J.J. Piccolo, he's Dayton Moore. It's just going to be the exact same thing, right? Okay, well, maybe not. Because it's one thing to be an assistant and to be under somebody who's the head, and you might have ideas, but they have the final say, and now it's yours, and you go, okay, now this is what we're going to do. We're going to revamp our entire pitching development because it ain't working. And I can do that because now I've taken over and I've had some ideas. This is what I want to do. I'm going to give it a year.
You also may have agreed with some of his ideas that didn't work, and we're like, well, I'm not going to do that again.
Right, exactly. But let's learn from it.
Right.
Let's see what we were doing before and what we were doing wrong. Maybe we should have already embraced some of the analytics, some of the spin rate, if that's what they're even doing.
Well, that's why I think it's so impactful. And again, a part of it, I'm going to go with Brian Sweeney.
Yeah, for sure. At the big league level, matters too.
December 22, he came in, and there's been a drastic shift And I go to that year specifically. I know it's the whole overhaul in general, so you can point to that. One, players have to buy in. But remember Jake Junis, who was like, I'm not going to throw this. I'm not doing it. I don't trust you guys. Then he went to San Fran. Good. But it helped revitalize his career because guess what he's doing right now? Still pitching as a reliever in Cleveland, and you have to have the trust in guys.
And to your point, he started doing what the Royals wanted him to do.
Yes.
But he went to another team, and they were like, no, do this. And he's like, okay, I'll do it if you guys think so because you guys are developing pitchers. Let's do that.
And so now I think the Royals are going to start falling in line with the trust factor. Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis Chapman had to trust the Royals because the Royals said before he signed him, hey, we think we can fix you. You sign here. We think there's a minor tweak, and we can get you back to being the Aroldis Chapman of old. What happened? He came here and it was the Aroldis Chapman of old. Royals, swapped him. We know what happened there with Cole Reagans, right? So, again, that was a trust factor. Aroldis Chapman actually trusted the Royals pitching staff. Think about 5 years ago. That wasn't the case.
No way. You wouldn't come to the Royals to help you develop.
And then here's Chris Bubich. Chris Bubich, I can't use 23 because 23 pitched in 3 games. Then he got injured, right?
Yeah.
But 2022, his fastball was the worst fastball in all of baseball. The first percentile. Atrocious. He was throwing a fastball, a change, a curve. Fast forward to 2024. Fastball, above average, sweeper change, sinker. Now go to 2025 when he's back being a starter. Four-seam, sweeper, change, slider, sinker. His fastball is 76th percentile in baseball. Why? The analytics. It's not. It has nothing to do with the fastball velocity. The velocity is almost the exact same from 22 to now. It's not like all of a sudden he's throwing 97. It's still 92. But what's the difference? It's the pitching coach. It's the philosophy. Things change. They evolve. The Royals, to me, their pitching staff was stuck in the old 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s. You got to keep it down. Whatever it is, keep it down.
You preach first pitch strikes, but don't actually throw them.
Yes, it was just all the old school thought process that you would teach your kids growing up. The game's evolved. It's changed. Maybe throw the 92-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone. See what happens. Oh, guys, all of a sudden, all these hitters now have uppercut swings and they can't touch it still? Keep doing it. And so, to me, it's the evolution of baseball. The Royals were being left behind. And now they're no longer being left behind. And now you can consistently say, at least in my opinion, put them with Cleveland, put them with Tampa. I would say the Dodgers, but the Dodgers are having issues with every single guy getting injured.
Well, I was going to say they're battling injuries, too.
But they have for how long now? So at some point, is there something in their philosophy?
Yeah, it's a good question.
That's causing these injuries. So I guess for me, we've talked so much on the hitting side and how bad it's been, but I want to give the Royals pitching staff and just the philosophy that they've gone through, the change, the overhaul, because this has worked. It's been a 3-4 year change in the making, and we've seen tangible results. I've just been so impressed, and I don't know if they get enough credit for what they did, the massive overarching, because I was in the same boat as, we appreciate Dayton Moore, everything he did. He's a good man, all that stuff. It's awesome. We appreciate he brought a championship to Kansas City to a small market team. Almost no one can say that. Mm-hmm. But it was time to move on, and JJ felt like it was just going to be Dayton 2.0. I was against it. I am completely changed in my thought process there. JJ is his own man, and he helped change baseball in Kansas City.
The change in 2022, because you can go back and look at what was going on in the minors before that, because there are pitchers that have helped out the big league club. In AA, guys who were struggling and couldn't put it together were a couple of guys by the name of Alec Marsh and Jonathan Bolin.
Yeah.
And then they get with Paul Gibson, Justin Friedman, and they do something really weird, and they start developing like individual pitching programs for the pitchers, highly specific for each individual pitcher, that had personalized pitch selection, grips, delivery, location, that then they put together with the sports science to pair with workout regimens and routines that would develop those particular skills that matched their arm slot and grip and arm action to maximize what their pitches would do. That's a novel concept. Instead of, hey, as a group, we're working on curveballs. That's what we're going to throw curveballs as an organization. We throw curveballs around here.
Yeah.
All right, we're a curveball organization. It's what we throw. You throw a curveball? No, we'll teach you one. We're good at the curve. You know what? We're a slider organization. We like sliders, fastball sliders. We like working and commanding the fastball, working off with us. You throw a slider? We'll teach you one. We got a slider for you. We got a slider coach over there. It's a great slider coach. Now, not the guy that teaches people how to slide in a second. He's a slider coach. He's a slider guru, we call him.
He loves small burgers.
Yeah.
He loves sliders.
Nickname Slider. Burgers, pitches, whatever it is. We just we slide all around everything. He's just a slider guy. He comes into a room and slides right into the room. It's crazy. He's just a slider guy. Cutter, you don't throw a cutter? We'll teach you a cutter. We're a cutter organization. You know what I mean?
Big Collinsworth fan.
That's right. In fact, we get all of our pitching coaches from Qatar. That's how important it is to be a cutter around here. You have to absolutely throw. No, it's a novel concept. Okay, let's look at the advanced numbers and the way you're pitching and how your grip and pitches work. Let's play off of that. Let's go, and each and every player is going to be given a specific workout in the off season of here's the full breakdown of everything that you have done in mechanical issues, your pitches graded, and here's how we want you to work in the off season so that when you return, these are the areas that will be maximized and emphasized for you. So it was not a same as the old that, well, you're just hiring J.J. Piccolo because, it's Dayton Moore and it's going to be the same thing. It wasn't the same thing. J.J. took over, gave himself some time to analyze the entire part of it, top to bottom organizationally. Where's the issue? Well, it's obvious where the issue was. A small market team cannot survive without developing pitching.
Yes.
You can have top 10 picks. If you're not developing them, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to go out and pay for that, and you can't afford it. You can't afford it. And what they've done has obviously shown in the numbers. Now, there are some areas where you'd like to continue to see improvement. You want to have success from Mazzucato. You'd like to see that. Asa Lacy could never break the injury.
It's not a catch-all that is
right.
always going to work, but you look at percentages.
But a seventh rounder in the 2021 draft that pitched last night in Noah Cameron, Jonathan Bolin coming up and helping, Alec Marsh doing what he did last year and helping them get to the postseason. Because make no mistake, Alec Marsh helped this team. His ERA was bloated, 5-something. But as we watch it, it didn't feel like Alec Marsh was a guy that you went out there and was like, well, it's a 6 ERA. This guy sucks. It's Chris George on the mound. No, it wasn't that. He had that amazing game against the Yankees when it was 150 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And pitched the way that he did against the New York, 10 strikeouts out at the K? He was brilliant. And they were about to get swept by the Yankees, and they won that game. So 2 years ago, would he have been able to do that? 3 years ago, before Gibson and Friedman and these guys get in there and start specifically individually developing as opposed to an organizational philosophy of this is how we do it around here and you are going to conform to that. Or this is your arm action. We've studied the advanced analytics. We've studied the biomechanics of your arm. Not everybody is created the same. What your arm slot is that's comfortable for you that you've worked out of. Or what if we drop this 2 degrees? Look, if we drop your arm angle 2 degrees, this is the action that's going to happen on your pitch. This offseason, here are the workouts you need to work on so that when you show up to spring training next year, you're 2 degrees a little bit lower in your arm angle.
Chris Bubich actually is 3 degrees lower from 22 until now.
Right. I mean, it's like little things like that to see how the pitches would work. But that's the advanced analytics of the game. That's the studying of the game. And you got to have somebody that's passionate about it and not just dabbling in it. Mike Matheny dabbled in it. I took a course in advanced analytics when I was out of baseball. He did the class. He
was online.
He went to Johnson County Community College in an analytics course while he was out of baseball.
Those old commercials, with the lady that would sing the song. getting my degree on my own. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to lose my mind.
No, what he was doing was he saw the commercial. One day, one night, Saturdays, all right. Online's just fine. Nighttime, anytime. Get your degree. Set yourself free. National American University.
Education Connection. That's what it was.
Oh.
Get your degree at Education Connection. No?
Mike Matheny's sitting down in at spring training, opening up a book, Analytics for Dummies. No, Dayton, I'm on chapter 2. I got this chapter 2. We are going to analytic the hell out of this year. So, chapter 2. Spin rate. Dayton. You know they're studying spin rates now? It's crazy. I'm learning about WAR. It's WAR. No, it's wins above replacement, Dayton. It's pretty cool. Wait till I take over this team. We are going to analytic the hell out of these games. Where's home next? Matheny got took his course while he was down in spring training at University of Phoenix because he wasn't aware that you could do it online. He actually went to the brick and mortar University of Phoenix. It's just one office. No, actually, we're just online.
It's a P.O. box.
This is actually not. You just go online to do the courses.
It's a server farm.
It's the 40-year-old virgin. No, I just want to buy this. I want to buy the boots, right? I'll give you. Well, actually, no, but you have to go on eBay to buy the boots. We're just here. This is where we ship them, right? But I want to give you money, and I'll just take these boots, right? Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Sorry.
What a great movie.
It's very good. How about Jonah Hill that long ago? Buying some boots, and those boots pretty bad.
I actually wanted those boots for a long time. I wanted to buy them with the fish in them.
This is my shocked face. locks in our guest here in the zone. Matt, welcome in, brother. How are you, sir?
Listen, I'm doing pretty good. I guess, I'm glad they're still making mats out there, but I don't know, I want to be a little unique, so maybe we have to change things up now.
Yeah, just go by, Matthew, Maddie. You go by Maddie, online, so maybe you do that.
The context is we found out the only pitcher to pitch a no-hitter in their debut, Matt, was a man in 1892 named Bumpus Jones of the Cincinnati Reds. So
throwback baseball names are the best.
Yes.
Yeah, there is not
Absolutely.
a single person that played baseball before like 1920 with a just normal name.
His name
They're
like
always
John.
the most awful- yeah.
we actually didn't know the name, but then when we heard the year, we immediately all went to look up the name.
I said like
we were
Ash Can
definitely-
Charlie or
Yep.
something like that, and he was like, nope, it's actually named
And
Bumpus
we were
Jones.
rewarded. Yeah.
And I'm like, when did we stop making bumpuses, though? Like, at what point did we stop making bumpuses? Matt Lane is our guest. All right. When did Brett Veach start learning how to trade back? I don't know. Sky Moore didn't necessarily work out, but they got themselves a fifth-rounder for Josh Simmons. Matt, let's talk about this draft for the Chiefs. A week ago today is when they get Josh Simmons in the first round. The question that we've been asking people that have come on the show just to get their initial thoughts on it is, we know the injury. We know that it's been widely discussed and reported on. Was the risk in your mind worth the potential reward at pick 32 for Josh Simmons?
I think from where we stand on the outside, I say it has to be yes, because I am not a doctor, and I have also had no access to the medical checks or any introductions to Josh Simmons as a person. So, I have no reason to sit here and say I don't think that his knee is up to the standard of what the NFL or the Chiefs want from somebody returning from that injury. So, I almost at this point just kind of have to put my faith or my belief in his health into the hands of Rick Burkholder and the Chiefs, medical staff and everybody making decisions there. And so if I do that, if I take that part off my plate because I can't really answer that and just look at the player, yeah, very much worth it because you get a guy that probably goes in the top 10 of this draft if there's no injury and his play continued the way it had started this year. You're looking at a top 10 pick that you get not only at the end of the first round, but hey, you successfully trade back one spot and pick up, a fifth round and mid-round pick to do so. And then you still are able to get this guy that, again, the Chiefs haven't had a chance to draft this caliber of player since, 2013, really?
Yeah.
If we discount trading up for Patrick Mahomes, this caliber of player, it's been, a long time since they've been in position to draft a guy this talented at this this important of a position.
Yeah, when was the last time they had, and I'm trying to think because, they've been so successful. So just when was the last time they because Christian Darrisaw went number 23. So if we're saying all right, that's where, you've got to be able to do that. Eric Fisher, we know that with the number 1 overall pick. Marcus Peters in 15 at pick number 18. D Ford was pick 23 in 2014. So those are sort of the last times that you would be able to do that, except for when you talk about trading up for Patrick Mahomes, because every other pick there is going to be late in the first round or trading up to get McDuffie or not having a first rounder because of Orlando Brown and Frank Clark. It was D Ford at pick 23. Not saying that was D Ford over Darrisaw. There might not have been somebody available at that point that you felt like was good enough. And then Marcus Peters at 18. So was the last time they would have been in position to take somebody. Not that they would have done that because, again, they had Eric Fisher. But just the point that you're making, they don't pick high enough to typically be around a guy with Josh Simmons' talent.
For sure. And even those guys that we're mentioning here, as these middle to late round picks, Marcus Peters had a plethora of off-field concerns going into the draft, right? And D Ford was more of it was a one-year guy that people didn't know how well he was going to transition. So there was he's raw but very athletic, risk. All these guys that we're talking about that have a lot of talent in the NFL draft, there's going to be a risk. It just so happens that Josh Simmons is a medical risk. And when that's the case, I do think from the outside as fans, we get a little bit more nervous because if it goes poorly, it's not like D Ford where maybe he breaks out in year 4, you can, get use out of him and then trade him away right after that because that risk took a while. It's, if this doesn't work, he might not play at all. Now, again, I have no access to any information that tells me that. All I can go based on is what has been reported, leaked, and then what the Chiefs say. And for all intents and purposes, everybody seems to feel pretty good about where he's at in his recovery. And if we get a guy that plays up to the way he was playing to start this year, it's just you are getting a Christian Darrisaw is a great name because I've seen that comp around. Like you are getting a player of that caliber, if not even a little bit better. Just thinking back on Darrisaw coming out still being a little bit raw, at that caliber of player at pick 32, and that just doesn't happen hardly ever. We'll
get into the questionable pick in your mind. And I want to certainly pick your brain on that. But let's start with the flip side of that. Which pick stood out to you as the one that you were most excited about? Value, not just simply player. I mean, it could be Josh Simmons, but value, where they took him, what the fit scheme potential is for this particular player. Which is the one that that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I do want to just mention, like, Josh Simmons is my favorite player that they chose. I just think that the value of getting him where they did and then how he looks. When you watch Josh Simmons play, it is the most clear, this is an offensive tackle. This is how the position's supposed to be played. The feet are super fluid. The hands are matched with the feet. He's never out of position with his body. Like, he's always balanced. He's always in a spot to receive contact or deliver it. It's entirely different than watching a Wanya Morris or a Kingsley Suamatea coming out of college. He is entirely different of like level of a prospect. And just seeing that again, being the potential for a Chiefs left tackle is phenomenal. But outside of Simmons, we don't want to hype just on the first rounder. I really liked actually the value of getting Jeffrey Bassa there on day 3. I think that is a linebacker like of the exact prototype the Chiefs don't have. It's very much what they wanted in Drew Tranquil, and I think they got that first year, 2 years back. But last year it seemed like there was maybe a step back in the athletic, how athletic he was and his coverage ability. I think Bassa profiles as a very similar type of player to Drew Tranquil, where it's safety background, so there's like a natural feel in coverage for zones and stuff like that, but a little bit more athletic at this point of their careers, and he will be able to run with some tight ends. He will be able to cover a little more ground. So after a year or two, I could very easily see him sliding into like the starting weak side linebacker role next to Nick Bolton and kind of being that perfect complement to go along with him.
Yeah, the one of the things that I had noticed, and I put together a list of, and I've talked to you about this as well, that the two references that I look at the most, and there are other draft guides that I study and look at, and but the two that I sort of view and use as the main resources, Dane Brugler's The Beast, you guys, because of that specific connection with the Chiefs, and when you mentioned Jeffrey Bassa, you and Brugler both had him as a third-round grade. The Chiefs got him at 156. You guys had him at 81 overall. Brugler had him at 99 overall. The Chiefs got him at 156. To me, Matt, outside of Omar Norman-Lott, where you guys and Brugler agreed as well on that one to a large degree, the other ones, it seemed like, why is this guy available at this time? And the value is just so good that you can't pass up this player, and the Chiefs just seem to be coming away with value after value after value. That's sort of the theme and the takeaway for me is looking at your guys' draft guide and Brugler's draft guide, the only player on here that was ranked lower than where they took him was Omar Norman-Lott.
Yeah, it feels like the Chiefs have kind of been going this general direction here as of late. They've been drafting guys with very good value according to any specific board, but I like to use the consensus board just to get a general idea.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been drafting closer and closer to right on the mark for the consensus board as of late. And that's a good process, process to go by, just because the more minds, the more eyes you have on something, it's probably going to be a little bit more correct. So it seems to be something that they are valuing as finding the right value to have. And I think they even mentioned it in the post-draft presser with Bassa. He was by far our best player left on the board. So when they traded up to go get him, the offensive side was like, well, it makes sense because this is a guy that they're getting a great deal on. It reminded me very similar of Jaden Hicks last year, where it's like, hey, we don't know why this guy's still available. We have him a lot higher than here. So at this point, it makes zero sense not to take him. And we see how that played out. The Chiefs ultimately end up losing Justin Reed in free agency, but they have a guy that, as the year went on, flashed more and more potential as a day 3 draft pick to just come in and be able to start, hopefully by his next year, his second year in the NFL. And I think Bassa might go down that same line. It's a great value. I think he probably dropped just because he's a later transition to linebacker. So some teams are looking at him, and I don't want to call it timidness, but there is some aspects where he's maybe not as physical as some other linebackers. And when you're looking around the NFL right now, you either want a linebacker that is a complete physical freak in terms of his athletic ability, or you want somebody that is very willing to stick their nose in there and stop the run. And he's a very good athlete, but maybe not at that freak level right now. And as he's still getting used to playing linebacker. So I think that probably played a part in his drop, but hey, the Chiefs can be the ones that benefit from it at this point.
Before we heard Ryan Nutt talk, that was the comparison that I made with Jeffrey Bossa in the 5th round. I said it feels like Jaden Hicks. And, talking with, my brother and nephew as we're keeping track of the draft, little man had a baseball tournament. So, I was, Matt, I was not at third base coaching while also checking out to see how soon the Chiefs were going to be picking. I did not do that. And all of a sudden look up, back! Dude, you've got to be what? Eyes on the pitcher, man. Come on. Okay, so they're 2 picks away. No, that wasn't me at all, Matt. That's not what happened. But
did you actually wave anybody home? Junior's trying to clap.
There were 2 outs, right? I thought we had 2 outs. I said go on anything. Dude, there were no outs. It's the first batter of the inning. My bad. You know what? I'll wear that one. That's on me. I'll wear that one. That's me. I'm not going to blame anybody else for this. Except for the schedule that they gave us on a Saturday in the middle of the draft. They could have given us early games. But anyway, I said it with Jeffrey Bossa when he was drafted in the 5th round, and it was like, I guess they're not getting a running back. And I said, man, I wonder if 5th round was where they were going to get their running back, 4th or 5th round. And Bossa's there, and it's like, it feels like Jaden Hicks, that maybe last year Jaden Hicks was going to be, maybe last year Jaden Hicks might have been a running back. At that spot. And they're like, dude, Jaden Hicks is here. Like, we can't pass up on him. And it allowed them, Matt, to move on from Justin Reed and not have to pay the premium for him to bring him back because they were lacking that spot. And what this does is it does allow them, depending on what Drew Tranquill does this year, but it allows them to move on from Drew after this year. They would save $6 million against the cap. He's a $7.5 million cap hit next year, as in 2026, I should say, and a $1.5 million dead cap hit. He'll be 31 years old. He also has a $30,000 roster bonus, so he can make another $500,000. So really $8 million potentially for Drew Tranquill, or Bossa slides into that spot. And that's how you continue to build your team in a salary capped era with an expensive quarterback. Is that $6 million? You can go to another couple of players in that on different areas if you would have taken a running back there in the 5th round. Let's say they take Brashard Smith in the 5th round, because that's also something, Matt, it certainly sounded like Ryan Nutt was saying, like, that was kind of the guy they wanted, but Bossa was there so they couldn't pass him up, and then all of a sudden our guy's still there in the 7th.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good point, because like last year, I think that might have been, I don't know if it was necessarily for a running back or anything like that, but it did seem like there was other positions that were going to be available for them, and Hicks was just the best value, and that seemed to happen again this year, maybe both with Jalen Royals and then especially with Jeffrey Bassett, the way they talked about him. So I got the sense leading into the draft, just hearing Brett Veach talk, that they felt pretty good about the depth of the running back class again. Mm-hmm. When they took Isaiah Pacheco a few years back, it was after the draft, but the way that Veach just talked about the depth of the running back class that year and how you have all these good players who can be good functional running backs in the NFL going in round 7 based on their collegiate production and so on and so forth, he brought that same stuff up pre-draft this year, and that really did make me start to wonder if that, round 2, 3, maybe even round 4 isn't the spot they're looking at for a running back. They might be waiting to see what's going to be a little bit available later in the draft, because if you look at this running back class, even now, go and look at all the guys that went in the 6th, 7th round. It's guys that had 1,000 yards in college. It's guys that had a big impact in college. So I do think that they were a little bit more willing to wait on running back this year, and it just so happened that spot that maybe they were considering taking one, they had a player, and Bass is a lot better, that was available. And I do want to say on that running back point, I don't love the process of saying, oh, we can just get a good collegiate running back in round 7 and we can make him good enough in the NFL. It's not my favorite way to go about it, because then I think you end up 3 years later where the Chiefs are now with, like, Isaiah Pacheco's really good, but do we need a little more? The difference I do think this time around is Brashard Smith fits exactly what they need. Like, he is what they are missing at the position. He's dynamic. He's a good receiver. So while I don't know if you can expect him to be a top running back, you at least got a guy that's going to carve out a very specific role as a third down back and as like a change of pace guy if it works out. So I at least like the type of running back that they spent this draft value on, rather than trying to find a quote-unquote bell cow, late in the draft.
There are a number of these guys that I'm pumped and excited about, but maybe the most excited that I as the days go by, because I think early production and impact could be Brashard Smith on that third down. And because Jalen Royals, we'll see how he does with the playbook. We know about that as a wide receiver. Noel Williams, they signed Christian Fulton, Jalen Watson. He'll be starting from, everybody has a head start on him in this race to be the number 2 corner. Gelati, again, you're coming in, and I think there will be a role for him, but you also have a Menahue and Dana and Karlaftis and those guys. Maybe Omar Norman Lott, just because of somebody's got he should be better than Tillery. And so playing next to Chris Jones certainly could be the case. Bassa, you do have Bolton and, as we said, Tranquil and even Leo Chanel. And so going through those, it's like they have nobody on their roster. Elijah Mitchell, and maybe this is bad news for Elijah Mitchell, but, is he healthy? Is he not? I don't know. But even Elijah Mitchell, to me, doesn't offer the juice that I feel like Brashard Smith can offer early on this team. So the more and more I think about it, the more I get excited, and even from a return game aspect, too, with Brashard Smith, because I've just been wanting it for so long. That's probably part of it, too, Matt, is 2 years running. I'm like, they've got to find somebody that can play the Damian Williams or Jerick McKinnon role. They don't have that juice in the running back since McKinnon lost a step, and they've been looking for it. And I think they got it in spades with Brashard Smith.
For sure. And, I think it's funny that Rhett Lashley, the coach at SMU, was watching the Chiefs, watched Isaiah Pacheco, and said, oh, that's how I can use Brashard Smith, when Jerick McKinnon would have been playing in the exact same game, and he makes the comp to Isaiah Pacheco. I just thought that's so funny in my brain to think that, looking at Brashard Smith, I mean, he very much reminds me of a Jerick McKinnon before he got a little older, before all the knee injuries kind of zapped some of that athleticism, because he's a good runner, a good running back in the open field. You do kind of have to help get him past the first level right now, and he's still new to the position. But when you get him, a free run to the second level, and now it becomes reading linebackers, reading defensive backs' angles, and making guys miss, he's a really good runner of the football. Then you just kind of got to help him get there. And then that's why when you get him out in space on the passing game, that he's also really good. It's I don't know. It seems pretty easy to me to draw the Jerick McKinnon comparison for him. So I do like that. I do think it's a very easy and clear path to potential playing time, especially if Elijah Mitchell, 1, isn't healthy, or 2, and he might not move the same after all the injuries either, right? And so I do think he probably has the most direct line to early playing time. I will say Ashton Gelati, though, to me, he's my sneaky guy that might have a pretty big impact as a rookie, just because I think the early down, or the pass rushing down. Yeah. I do think they might be able to find a way to work him in off the edge as a situational pass rusher. And just like George Karlaftis, there's a level of energy and power and effort there that exists. And at some point in time, when you're paying attention to Chris Jones and Charles Omenihu and George Karlaftis and maybe Omar Norman Lott and everybody else, here comes this guy that's never going to quit and plays like his hair's on fire every single play. So seeing him come away from his rookie year with 5.5 sacks, it wouldn't be too surprising to me.
Yeah, visiting with Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, and in the next segment, we're going to go through the story that Mike Silver wrote in The Athletic about Ashton Gelati and the Rams and the Jags. But let's talk about Omar Norman Lott, because that is the pick that has what I believe to be the widest variance of opinion on, even with Josh Simmons. I think everybody's in agreement that if Josh Simmons is healthy, he's a stud. I don't think there's anybody that goes, well, even if he's healthy, I wouldn't take him at 32. The only question is health. And so there seems to be a consensus in the analysis on Josh Simmons. Omar Norman Lott is different. You guys had him at pick 146 as a fourth rounder. He went 63rd. Brugler had him as a fourth rounder, not in his top 100. He went 63rd. What is it that concerns you about Omar Norman Lott? And what is it to where, or can you see what the Chiefs were looking and seeing, or the strategy behind taking him there at 63 for how you expect him to be used?
Okay, so I'll try to summarize my entire process since the Chiefs have drafted him, because I've gone full circles on this now. The Chiefs drafted him, and coming in, I'd watched him and I'd seen all the stats about the pass rush win rate and all this explosive pass rusher stuff, and I've seen some flashes. I just didn't know if I saw them enough or in the most versatile ways to really buy in. But the Chiefs take him, so you go back and you watch under a more specific lens. And okay, there's some more flashes versus the run that I gave him credit for. Maybe it wasn't okay, he's not on the field because he can't play the run. Tennessee just really does hockey line rotate their defensive line, and he just happened to be on the second or third line, so he got the least amount of snaps. So maybe it's okay. You see the potential with the pass rush. Like, there's an explosive first step. He's got the flexibility that if he gets on a guy's like shoulder, he can bend around them if they don't have him framed up really well. He has good power in his hands when he gets first contact. Like, there is things that signal, hey, there's development to be had here as a pass rusher and to be very disruptive. But then I kind of took another step back after that as well. If I go watch the whole game of Tennessee, I see no difference when it's him or the other 4 defensive tackles they play.
Interesting.
The
yeah.
defense still functions the same. And so how much of it is him? How much of it was this defense likes to slant and stunt and move all these guys around? So at the end of the day, I come to this. I think there was a run on pass rushers, like not just defensive tackles, but pass rushers in that second round. And the Chiefs found themselves looking at like the back end of it. And they were like, well, we're losing these guys, specifically on the interior. We would really like someone to come in and be able to provide a Tershawn Wharton-like replacement, and we don't have a lot of names left. Omar Norman-Lott is somebody, we love his energy. We love the character, the guy on the field, the leadership and everything that he provides, so we can add him. And I think he's just going to be like the goal kind of might be an agent of chaos. Just let him go out there, slant, twist, loop, and just disrupt things, not necessarily as him making the plays, but setting up a bunch of other guys to get their one-on-ones, because that's kind of where he was at his best at Tennessee, is just letting him kind of be a bull in a china shop and then letting other guys play off of it. I do wonder if that's kind of their vision of what they're going for.
Yeah, I think, too, I presented this scenario the other day on Monday, and the scenario was in my vast experience of being in a war room, in an NFL war room, or the vast experience of being in fantasy football leagues. And anybody that's played fantasy football knows this exact scenario. I'm up on the clock, and I don't have a tight end. I'm just using it. I don't have a tight end. And I need a wide receiver and a running back, but the next time I pick again, I've got like 4 wide receivers and 4 running backs that are sort of all clustered together. And maybe it's a round too early for the tight end, but after him, good God, there's kind of a drop-off, and I'm going to be playing the waiver wire with tight end this year if I don't take this guy. So I feel confident that one of those 8 selections are going to be there the next time I pick of the 4 running backs and 4 wide receivers that I feel good about. I'm going to take the tight end here, probably early, but only because I'm not going to get him. Is there a scenario in your mind, Matt, where they're sitting on the clock and they're going, I mean, Norman-Lott, is he a guy that's the 63rd best pick in the draft? Or is he the last of this group of players that we aren't going to get if we don't take him right now? And we feel good about a number of other players that we can get, maybe Gelati at 66, which they did, or Noel Williams, or a wide receiver. It ended up being Royals later on. That it's like, if I create a scenario where Jalen Royals was taken with the 63rd pick, and Ashton Gelati was taken with the 66th pick, and Noel Williams was taken with the 85th pick, and Omar Norman-Lott was taken with the 133rd pick, I think people would be going, you know what? Pretty good that they came away with those 4 out of those 4 picks. And I think there's certainly a scenario where the Chiefs viewed it and said, he ain't going to be available. We're not going to get Norman-Lott and Ashton Gelati, because the Giants did take Darius Alexander 2 picks later before the Chiefs took Gelati. So maybe they would have taken Norman-Lott.
Yeah, and that's just kind of like how theoretically in my mind it works. Like, I think from what I understand is NFL teams kind of have guys broken out into tiers. That's not necessarily like in a straight like vertical fashion. And so they're looking at these tiers, and Omar Norman-Lott is probably the last guy of a set, or maybe not the last, but just he's probably in a tier separate from all these other defensive linemen that went quickly thereafter. And they didn't want to risk missing out on both of them. I would assume, judging by how close the picks were, Gelati would also be in that tier. He just happened to be defensive end. And so they went with the probably thinner position group left. Maybe there was a couple defensive ends they felt okay with, and there was one defensive tackle they liked in that spot. So I do think that they were looking at it as, hey, we're kind of at the back end of this type of player that we want. Let's go ahead and make sure that we get this guy, even if there's a chance we could get him later, and then we will adjust from there. We'll see what happens from there. And, again, it's not that there's nothing to work with. There's clearly a lot of physical talent there. I just don't know for a fifth-year guy if we've seen it fully culminate yet. And, like, that's really what I was hoping to find going back and watching. Hasn't happened yet, but it doesn't mean it's not there. And I think you put him in Spags type of defense with all the blitzes, the games and stuff that they can do.
Yep.
I do think he kind of becomes a force multiplier of chaos, not necessarily of him being the winner of the play, but just creating a little bit of chaos that's hard to handle team-wide. And so I can see how the fit slides in there. It's just maybe not the best value that I would have been aiming for going into the draft.
Yeah, when they were on the clock with pick 63 or 66, I'd have been perfectly fine with Gelati or Landon Jackson. And maybe those were two guys that were left, and they're like, we're 3 picks away. If we don't take Norman Lott, he might be gone, and then we'd have our choice of Gelati and Landon Jackson. We take Norman Lott here, and the odds are the next 2 picks won't be Gelati and Landon Jackson. We'll take our chances, and okay, we'll take the guy we want the most is Gelati, and then Jackson went a few picks later to the Buffalo Bills. Could be part of the thought process. You got to play the board too while you're also drafting your guys. Last one for you, Matt Lane. Is there a player or two that were undrafted that the Chiefs signed as priority free agents that you think they have a shot to make the 53-man roster?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Elijah Badger, the wide receiver out of Florida. I think he's a very fluid, loose mover. He needs, to hone in his route technique and being very nuanced with it. But the movement skills are all there, and he's been a proven yards after the catch guy throughout his time at college. So he's the first guy, and then Essapol, the offensive tackle out of Washington State, is a little bit more of a project. It's going to take him some time, but that athleticism that he has as a predominantly a basketball player until he got to college is something that I think will have a chance to, guys his size don't move the way he does very often. So that guy has a chance to really develop and get going.
And you mentioned a couple of guys that we pointed out too. And by the way, Chris Trapasso, I said this yesterday from CBS Sports, his number 1 player available after the draft was Elijah Badger. Not number 1 wide receiver, the number 1 player that he's this is the best priority free agent is Elijah Badger. Asa Poll was rated at NFL.com as the number 3 tackle available after the draft. So you certainly hit on a couple there that other people have been talking about too. So well done. Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Matt, you're the man. Kept you too long, but I could keep you another hour and a half, man. Appreciate it as always, brother. We'll talk in a couple weeks.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Talk to you guys soon.
Yep. There's Matt Lane. Great stuff from him as always. The days go by, and still I think of you. And also this, I get more and more excited about the draft and the guys that they got, just because the value that's there and the depth they add to it. And we talked about how crucial this draft was this year and this offseason, because you're going into another phase of Patrick Mahomes. This is Patrick Mahomes Part 1, post Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes Part 2. This loss this last year in the Super Bowl, and how the offensive line is going to have to be rebuilt without Joe Thuney and new left tackles. Travis Kelce, probably final year of his career. Mahomes needing to get back to the guy that would go deep again instead of playing just off the cover 2 shell. That was part of Mahomes' era number 2. I think we're entering the Taylor Swift eras of Mahomes' era number 3 this year. And to keep the dynasty rolling, it was a big offseason, and it was a big draft with minimal picks that they had to come away with value and players and starters that would be depth pieces that they couldn't miss on a second or a third or a fourth. And if we're talking about Jalen Royals and Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice next year as your 3 wide receivers, and you're like, damn, that's pretty freaking good, depending on what happens. Rashard Smith is your running back. Bossa's filling in, and Drew Tranquil, you walk on him and you save the $6 million and use it elsewhere. Noel Williams and Christian Fulton are lined up opposite each other, and you let Watson walk and you don't spend money on re-signing him to $4, $5, $6 million, and you use that elsewhere. And you come away with it. Jalen Moore is now your right tackle. You save all the money on Jawan Taylor because Josh Simmons looks good. You see the path of how this draft can lead to the dynasty window remaining wide open even more in 3 or 4 years. But it's the draft, it's potential. It could also come away the other way, that Royals was a 5th rounder for a reason, or a 4th rounder for a reason. Bossa doesn't really like contact the way that you would want a linebacker to like contact. He's not as aggressive, and you see that, and he's missing tackles, or he's not where he's supposed to be. And Rashard Smith is a nice change of pace back, but man, you get him out in space, but he can't get out in space on his own and doesn't know how to read the blocks because.
But he is an all-pro returner, so he's got that.
Could be an all-pro
for him.
returner. Norman Lott was a guy that was schemed up at Tennessee and just not looking like he should. Ashton Gelati's a nice player. Like, you can go through the Josh Simmons. It's a good player. Didn't really recover from that. They got to move him to right tackle, and Jalen Moore is like there are some scenarios where it's a disaster. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think these guys are too good, and consensus-wise, were viewed as too good for where they were still available for the Chiefs to draft.
Yeah, I guess I'll leave it here for me. I'll give you my full thoughts on what I think of this draft class on May 2nd, 2028. I'll give you my full thoughts on if I think this draft class is going to work out or not in about 3 years.
Yeah, you just don't know until they're out there on the. I'm going to give it an incomplete grade right now because the 3 years, 2022 draft, A. Giving that an A.
Yeah.
2023 draft, don't know, still incomplete. I need there's some more finals that are going to come in, for another year or so, and then I'll give you my real.
I
grade.
give it an extension. It's an extension.
It's tax time came and went. File for an extension. I'll pay you when I get around to it, there, Uncle Sam. All right. Are we making more Uncle Sams anymore? We're not making any Bumpuses. We making Sams still? We still making Sams out there? Any baby Sams? And not Sam short for Samantha either. I mean, not an Aunt Sam, Uncle Sam's. I have no idea. Like the less Uncle Sam's there are anyway. What was that, Sterling?
I hate taxes.
Hanging out here on this Thursday edition of The Zone. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. Wait up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Price Carter, Arrowhead Addict, coming up at noon. We will play some sports or leisure in the 1 o'clock hour, presented by Johnny's Tavern.
Fact.
Thank you to Matt Lane. More likely than not. Thank you to Matt Lane, KC Sports Network. The great draft guide that they have. It's really good stuff, and using some of that as a resource is cool. And their breakdowns of the laboratory podcast and everything as well. Yesterday we had Matt Verderam on, and he had mentioned that Mike Silver's report about Ashton Gelati and the teams that were interested in the Chiefs, what ended up being third-round selection at pick number 66. So I'm going to read this excerpt that Mike Silver was talking about, and as we just mentioned with Matt Lane there. In this story, this is about 17 pages down when you scroll on the very, very long and detailed story about there with the Jags and their 15-year-old GM and their new head coach and Duval.
Duval.
He writes here, in a perfect world, the number 70 selection, the Jags were sitting at 70. In a perfect world, the number 70 selection would boil down to a choice between two players, Central Florida running back R.J. Harvey and Louisville edge rusher Ashton Gelati. In the real world, things would get far more complicated. As the second round began, the excitement level remained pronounced. This is a new dawn. Can you feel it? Said Shad's daughter, Shauna, who is also an owner and was in the draft room all 3 days. The energy is palpable. It's a big deal. It was Gladstone's job to keep the vibes high. As the second round played out, the rookie GM was locked in. With the Rams on the clock, I asked Gladstone to predict which player his former team would take with the 46th selection. He squinted at the board for a moment and replied, Terrence Ferguson, tight end, Oregon. A minute later, an NFL official at draft headquarters over speakerphone announced the pick, Ferguson. Gladstone said, we call that a bullseye. Soon, the Harvey versus Gelati debate was in full force. Gladstone and Baselli seemed to be gravitating towards Gelati, partly because he was much, much higher on their board than the next-rated player at the position. We have 3 first-round defensive linemen, Cohen said, adding, half-jokingly, how many do we need? They already have that on their roster. Cohen was smitten with Harvey's talents as a runner. My parentheses here, he's an offensive guy in Liam Cohen.
Shocking.
So Cohen was smitten with Harvey's talents as a runner, which were undeniable. His pass-blocking prowess, that was a different story. It's not his superpower, Baselli said. His superpower is making people miss. Cohen and Gladstone also loved another back, Virginia Tech's Bashal Tootin. You're darn tootin', they liked him. But felt they could get him in a later round based on draft projections. Sensing that each of those players might be gone by the latter part of the third round, Gladstone instructed Ari Landsman-Ruse, the Jags Vice President of Decision Science. Love it. Ari Landsman-Ruse. What's your job? Vice President of Decision
Who's
Science.
the president? That was my question. when I heard it earlier.
What? Yeah.
What do you have to do to become president? And also, is there a president, or is that just the highest form of what was it?
Vice President of Decision Science.
Decision Science. Okay.
I don't think there's a president because at least in the Chiefs front office,
That's
everybody below like Brett Veach,
Yeah.
everybody's a vice president of something.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's a
The
president.
president of Decision Science is the owner.
Is the owner and
Shad Khan.
and Gladstone. Yeah, Shad Khan and Gladstone, the president of Decision Science. What's the science behind this decision? Well, let's get into it. Isn't that just therapy?
Have you talked to the president?
Isn't that just the psychologist, psychiatrist? Like, isn't that the science behind your decision making?
I just learned of this job, and now I aspire to be it.
Yeah, well,
I
as you
aspire to be the vice president of science
as
decision making.
you said, you just go to National American University. There's a class you could take on that Matheny took on it. He instructed Ari Landsman-Ruse, the Jags Vice President of Decision Science, to begin investigating trades that could allow Jacksonville to swap its second third-round pick, number 88, because they had multiple third-rounders, something back into the first half of the 70s, as they were sitting at pick number 70. As the second round neared its latter stages, Cohen became antsy. Let's just say F it and get him, the coach said in an apparent reference to Harvey. Gladstone preached patience. We've got to roll the dice at some point, Gladstone said, meaning that the Jags should take the risk that their desired players could be gone, stay true to their board, and resist the compulsion to surrender further draft capital. I mean, what's the fun of just going out and getting your guys? What a cocky young GM. What's the point of we can trade and go get our guys, but what's the fun of that? Let's have some fun here, okay? Let's let the nerves build up, the anticipation build up. Woo! Wild card. I just traded all our picks for nothing. Wild card. What are you doing? I cut the brake line. 5 picks from the end of the second round, Harvey went off the board. Someone went to inform Baselli, who'd slipped out into the snack area outside the draft room. I feel like maybe we didn't need to include that one. Baselli asked who took him. The Denver Broncos, he was told. Bastards, Baselli said, smiling. 14 picks later, the Bastards would select another of the Jags' potential targets, Illinois wide receiver Pat Bryant, a.k.a. Duval Pat, albeit much earlier than Gladstone would have considered drafting the Jacksonville native. If Thursday night was Gladstone's chance to make a splash, Friday was his first venture into the deep end. He was about to be confronted with a flurry of activity that even experienced general managers would have found challenging. Shortly after the third round began, another potential option surfaced. The Detroit Lions called, floating a possible trade that would send their third-round pick number 102, and a pair of 2026 third-rounders to the Jags for the 70th selection. The Lions still weren't sure they wanted to do the deal, but they were laying groundwork. Gladstone, as he did frequently throughout the 3 days, consulted via speakerphone with one of his most trusted lieutenants, Senior Vice President of Football Analytics, Jake Timme. Hired away from the Rams after Gladstone got the job, Timme was back in Southern California where his wife had just given birth to the couple's first child. 2 extra threes are pretty tempting, Timme said. A few seconds later, Gladstone got an offer from the Rams. The Rams' second-round pick next year for the 70th pick from the Lions in the third round. Now there were 3 scenarios. Try to close the trade with the Lions, accept the trade with the Rams, or stand pat and take the player they wanted. Before the discussion could begin in earnest, a collective groan filled the room. The Kansas City Chiefs, with a pick acquired from the Titans in last year's trade for cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, snagged Gelati with the second pick of the round. With the Jags selection just 4 picks away, now quick decisions had to be made. That was the guy they wanted. Tony Khan said, well, now the Detroit's trade sounds good. Added Timme, I'd agree to that trade right now. I love it, Gladstone said, then gesturing to Director of Player Finance, Trip McCracken. Trip McCracken. What's up, Trip? Of course he's in finance. His name's Trip McCracken. He's in finance. He was communicating with Mike Disner, the Lions' chief operating officer. Let it rip, baby, said Gladstone. Yet Detroit wasn't ready to make the deal now. The suspicion in the Jags draft room was that the Lions had been targeting Gelati. Also, minutes earlier, Gladstone had instructed McCracken to ask for a sweetener. Instead of including their 5th-round selection in 2025, include it for the 2026. A few minutes later, McCracken called back for a status check. They're considering it. The Patriots took Washington State receiver Kyle Williams with the 69th pick, putting the Jags on the clock. Gladstone brought up the Rams trade proposal. The future second will likely be late, but a second is still a second. Finally, McCracken got clarity from Disner. The trade terms were a go. Detroit's in if you want it, he announced. Seconds later, Gladstone fielded a phone call and grimaced. The Rams are out. I guess they wanted Gelati. Now it goes on and talks about the trade with Detroit trading up, getting who they got, then the rest of the Jags draft and getting the picks next year and all of that stuff. There's a whole lot more in there about the rest of the Jags draft.
That is super interesting, though, behind the scenes.
Dude.
And by the way, it made me think Trent McCracken in 100 years is going to be our Bumpus Jones. Like the name's...
Dude's name's Trent. Of course it's a Trent. Well, what a weird name, Trent Sterling.
I think he said Trip McCracken.
No, Trip McCracken is from Wedding Crashers.
Oh.
Trip McNeely maybe is from Can't Hardly Wait. Trip McNeely. Trip McNeely, man. But it is crazy fascinating to get that access and to report on all of those things. And the Lions, the Jags, and the Rams all wanted Gelati. I mean, ice cream's just fine too, but they wanted Gelati there in the top of the third round. And the Chiefs
with the way the Rams
traded
have been
Sneed.
Drafting defensive linemen.
Great point.
That's a good sign.
And speed to power.
Yeah.
They love Jared Verse, speed to power. The speed to power that Ashton Gelati is most known for, that people talked about, that the Chiefs talked about. Ryan Nutt talked about on Monday. Speed to power, Ashton Gelati. it does make you feel good when you hear the stories after the draft of the Texans, the Saints, and the Cardinals all wanted Patrick Mahomes. And the Chiefs traded up ahead of them to get him. Not the same level, obviously, as we know. But when you've got multiple teams that are good at identifying quarterbacks that wanted that quarterback.
I don't know, people joke with me about Sean Payton, but you had Sean Payton and Bruce Arians.
Yep, and Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, and Bruce Arians had coached basically every that was before he got to Tom Brady, but before that it was Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger.
He might not have ever. He might be still coaching in Arizona. If he gets Patrick Mahomes,
think about the Saints.
Bruce Arians might be the Arizona Cardinals head coach still with Patrick Mahomes there.
Like I do that with the Saints all the time.
Yeah.
Like look at what they would have become. Like Drew Brees, what would you have done? How would you have managed that situation when you saw what Brett Veach was? Because it's one thing when it's Alex Smith. No offense to Alex Smith, he's a great quarterback. But a Hall of Fame quarterback in Drew Brees is a whole nother.
He would have gone to Kansas City.
Montana and Steve Young.
He would have gone to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Who?
Drew Brees. It would have been a.
I mean, you're joking, but who knows?
It could have been.
I mean,
Joe Montana.
He didn't play for the Niners, so he wouldn't have come here.
Yeah, that's true. Or what's the history with Nick Saban if they sign Drew Brees instead of Dante Culpepper when Drew Brees wanted to go to Miami, did not want to go to New Orleans? Drew Brees wanted nothing to do with New Orleans. Katrina had just hit, and at that point, he didn't want to be viewed as the savior of a city and a franchise to go there, and then now you've got to build this thing up. Right, wrong, or indifferent, looking back on it now, he wanted to go to Miami. They lived in San Diego. Let's head to Miami. Only when he got there, he never even met with the coaches. All they did was do the medicals on his arm. And then he got to New Orleans, and you know what Sean Payton did? Never talked to a doctor one time with Drew Brees. They sat down and built an offense together. That's all he did with Drew Brees. Sat down and said, let's build an offense together around you. And Drew Brees said, called his wife, we're going to New Orleans. Hate to tell you that, but we're going to. And the Miami Dolphins chose Dante Culpepper, and Nick Saban chose Alabama shortly after that. Now, if they choose Drew Brees instead of Culpepper, maybe Nick Saban's there a couple, 3 more years. Maybe Alabama's different. Maybe they hire somebody else. Maybe that's not available. Maybe Missouri gets Nick Saban. You know what I'm saying here? That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm going. Maybe KU gets Nick. I don't know what happens there with the history.
And then Tyler Thigpen becomes
100%
a legitimate stud.
Right, Palco, you get opportunities to do some of those things, right? But yeah, like it's just about how you sort of the history and things like that. Like Sean Payton, what happens if Bill O'Brien if Bill O'Brien gets Patrick Mahomes, he's probably still the Texans coach. Like you never know what's taking place with that. But when teams that the Lions, defensive line, the Jags, Josh Allen, and out they took Trevon Walker over Hutchinson, but Detroit having Hutchinson and their defensive line, those teams were and as we said, the Rams, those teams were the ones that wanted to trade up and wanted to get Gelati. So 3 teams that are pretty good at identifying defensive linemen and defensive ends, and they're the ones that wanted them, and the Chiefs got them. I think there's some value in that, at least to look at. If it doesn't work out, the thought process and strategy wasn't necessarily wrong, and they weren't the only ones that viewed this guy as a player that shouldn't be there, and let's give up value. The Rams were going to give up a second rounder in 2026 to move up from, where were the Rams picking? The Rams selected a defensive end in the draft in the 3rd round, I thought. Yeah, they picked 90. They were going to move from 90 to 70 and give up a second rounder next year to get Gelati. That's what it was worth to them. And they ended up getting Josiah Stewart from Michigan, which, by the way, interesting sort of case study there, Gelati versus Josiah Stewart, because the Rams wanted to trade ahead of the trade up to 70 to get Gelati. They couldn't do it. The trades didn't work out. Their guy was gone. Their pick number 90, they take Josiah Stewart from Michigan. We'll find out what happens with that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. It's football. It is football. It's what the Chiefs play, football. We'll talk about that with Price Carter. We'll play some sports or leisure coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. And we'll see with, some of these undrafted free agents that they have. Seems to be a feel that a few of them, couple of them, at least one of them maybe, could be on the Chiefs' 53-man roster. The Chiefs released Ferkser, by the way.
Yeah.
Releasing Ferkser. That's one player down that wears number 85. They had two wearing 85, Ferkser and Tanyan. Jalen Royals is one step closer to wearing number 85.
Here's some interesting numbers.
Throw the numbers out.
9% of UDFAs make an NFL team's initial 53-man roster. Around 40% of UDFAs stay connected to an NFL team, including practice squad. And UDFAs make up over 12% of all NFL starters.
9% of the time, 100% of the time, those UDFAs make the team.
Yeah.
Yep.
So something to keep
math.
in mind there.
Math. So that means out of these, one of them at least will make it with that 9 percentile. Price Carter next. Up until 2 o'clock, couple more hours to go on this Thursday. An hour from now, we will play some sports or leisure. Have some Chiefs questions in that Sports or Leisure, some Chiefs draft questions. We'll get into some of that coming up an hour from now. Right now, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the draft and some things around the NFL as well with Price Carter, who is one of the draft analysts for Arrowhead Addict. Does a great job. We've had him on a couple times before the draft, and now let's break down the draft with Price. Price, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks so much for having me in, guys. I got to say, I haven't talked about it a lot, but being on Sports Radio 810, like if you would have told me a couple of years ago that I had this opportunity, I wouldn't believe it. I grew up listening to 810. My dad's involved in the local dirt track scene here, so listening to the Racing Boys as a kid. I was probably like the only high schooler that was driving to school listening to the Border Patrol. So I've always loved 810. I feel like I've grown up listening to you and Seren and all the guys. So it's really cool to be here and be a part of it. And it's not like this everywhere. You know, I've listened to other sports talk radio in other cities. It's not this good. So it's really cool to be a part of it.
So you were listening to Restrictor Plates, Scott Forrest, Restrictor Plates, Scott Trout. Yeah. Yep. Who was it that Kenny had the best impression of the Racing Boys? It was great. He was always just go Restrictor Plates. Price Carter is our guest. Let's get into the Kansas City Chiefs. And yes, by the way, I'm in agreement with you. I grew up listening to at first Sports Radio 1510, and then when they bought the signal for 810, moving over there, I was like driving around with my brother and dad. I'm like, so hold on, they're talking sports on the road. We're not listening to like music. They're talking about the Chiefs right now. Like, that's where they're. Well, that's cool. I can't play sports very well. Maybe I'll do something like that. That sounds pretty fun.
I knew it was bad whenever I would commentate. Like I had my little NASCARs and I'd run them around my kitchen table and I'd commentate on what was happening. Like Kevin
awesome.
Harlan or something.
Right.
So I knew that's when I had probably been bit by the bug, or when I would start responding to whoever was talking on the radio, like answering their question or talking along with them or countering their points. Like,
that's
okay,
right.
You might have a problem here. So it's been a great way to kind of scratch that nerve.
Total aside, we've talked about this maybe off the air or maybe on the air. One of the best broadcast productions that I think is just impressive to listen to is NASCAR on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
It's just constant from one turn to the next, to the next turn to the next, and everybody keeping the same train of thought. And this guy's picking up. It's unbelievable. I didn't know how it would be listening to it on the radio. It's freaking amazing how they produce those things.
Well, the level of detail that you get, right?
Yeah.
There's constant action happening on the track all the time. And for a sport that a lot of people will just tell you is just like going around in circles and turning left, to be able to pull that detail, I almost wish I've tried to do this before with Chiefs broadcasts, is get the radio call synced up with the video, because that's the best. You get the detail. They're pulling out all the details, but then also you still get the view and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really great. You don't get the fun audio opportunities you get in NASCAR where they I forget what they call it, like crank it up or whatever. They just get to hear the engines and the tires and everything. But yeah, it's fantastic. And there's those people who do that or who are able to do both. It's really impressive.
Yes. Price Carter is our guest. You've studied the draft. You've done it for a while with the Kansas City Chiefs and what they've done and with Arrowhead Addict. Let's get your thoughts. Again, I start off with this question since the first pick on Thursday night, because it will color the way we view the draft a lot with Josh Simmons. So the question we've asked people is, picking at 32, knowing the risk reward, knowing the injury, knowing the history of the injury, was it worth the risk reward scenario for the Chiefs to take that pick at 32?
Yeah, I think when you look at what was on the board at the time, some of the names that a lot of us liked in other spots, they weren't there. I know a lot of people here in the city probably might have been crying for Luther Burden. I know Sterling was, as I was with him when the Chiefs made the pick. But regardless,
was he crying though? Let's be honest. The couple of tears.
It was more of a tantrum.
No. I grabbed my medicine, which was bourbon, and I said I need a little medicine.
Little daddy's cough syrup.
I think my favorite was like when a middle-aged woman said that you hadn't been following the Chiefs for a long time. That was my particular.
I got some lady was like, "Oh, you must have just started watching the Chiefs in 2017." I go, "No, but even if I did, if I started watching 2017, I would understand they can't draft and develop tackles, so I would know even better."
And you'd also know that they draft wide receivers now in the first couple of rounds. They just did one last year, so why would they pass on a wide receiver? It's not Sylvester Morris anymore. You know what I mean?
I was like, gosh, gee willikers.
Yes.
Just because I think the Chiefs can't develop tackles doesn't mean I hate your guy.
It does to me.
That's my favorite part. Is they all turn on Sterling. That's my favorite part.
Always
It's
turn
fun.
on me, and it's puzzling, it's befuddling, it's.
I don't understand that dynamic at all. I have no idea. That seems out of the ordinary for.
I come
for
with
him.
the most thought out, well thought process, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pick one word you said, and I'm gonna find a way to make it seem like you're attacking me."
What's sports radio? Yes.
Yeah.
What else are we gonna do?
We've got to
You know
argue.
what happens.
We're 99% there. We just got to argue about that 1%.
Oh
for
my
4
gosh!
hours.
And I will die on that 1% hill.
absolutely.
I
I mean,
won't
there's.
die, but I'll get.
That's why I hate.
You get
the-
injured. You'll
get injured.
I'll have at least a couple bruises.
Yeah.
That's why I hate the who is the most underrated question, because it's like what are we arguing? Like you're arguing about what is properly rated. I don't know, but
Yeah. Who's the most underrated though in your mind?
I think the most underrated move the Chiefs could have made at 31 is moving back one spot. So getting the extra
Yes.
fifth round pick, which they did end up using and drafting a player that I do think will make an impact. The way the board played, it really felt like it was just either going to be Simmons or Burden at that point. And, I think you're right. A lot of this draft is going to be decided on what happens with him. I think the best situation for him and for the Chiefs is they have a plan in place where basically he doesn't have to come in and play week 1. Would it be amazing if he just blows everyone out of the water in camp and you're in a situation where you're like, hey, we've got to get this guy on the field, whether that's Juwan Taylor or Jalen Moore? I think how they frame it in camp will be really interesting too. Is this going to be an open competition, or is this more of a redshirt year? They have that luxury now, whether it be because of the injury or because of the player. It would be nice to see them do the opposite of what they did with Kingsley Suamataia. Kingsley Suamataia kind of quickly became like the thing where you're convincing yourself of something. It was like, well, of course he's going to start day 1. And we all felt confident because they told us that they felt confident. And then, week 2 rolls around and no one feels good about that.
No.
So it'd be great if they could kind of slow play that. And, I liked a lot of what they did throughout the class. But yeah, it's going to be won or lost with him. And the thing that I try to remember too is like so many of us are locked in on left tackle. Even if he comes in and ends up being the future right tackle, which he played some at San Diego State, it's still a really good pick. Because if you get a Eric Fisher level tackle or just a good, like a Donovan Smith level tackle to start for you on a rookie deal for 4 or 5 years, maybe you extend them, it's still a good pick at 32 and a risk worth taking considering how the board played out. And really, you think about it, this is probably the most talented level tackle that they could get that came at a discount with some of these character questions that don't sound heinous, just more of like attitudes, etc. And then the injury. So this was a risk worth taking for them.
Yeah. It would be a great problem to have. It'd be a great problem to have if all of a sudden we're watching training camp or preseason games and he looks fine. And you're like, well, you just paid Jalen Moore. You got Juwan Taylor, as Brett Veach said, on the tail end of his contract. So 1 more year there. That would be awesome. It'd be in a different spot than they were last year when I'm in agreement. They were convincing themselves that Kingsley needs to be the guy. Why? Because he needs to be the guy. He's going to be the guy. Why? Because nobody else is the guy. It's going to be Kingsley. Why? Because nobody else is there to play the position except Wanya. It has to be Kingsley. And Donovan Smith apparently was injured, and we didn't know about Donovan Smith's injury until later in the season. And so we now look back and see some of the flawed logic and some of the position that they were in to where their hand was forced to a degree with Kingsley. If he comes in and performs and it's like, yeah, he's recovered from the injury, phenomenal problem to have, because then he and Jalen Moore can compete. And if Jalen Moore is an overpriced swing tackle, that was an amazing insurance policy for what you would have at left tackle if you didn't have the board fall in your favor and you went into the season with Jalen Moore. Fantastic. Great. Because we're assuming that Jalen Moore or Juwan Taylor are going to be healthy all year long, that they're not going to miss games, that there's not going to be an injury. Because it's fun to say, here's what the team looks like, but what happens if somebody goes down? And Brett Veach mentioned that on Thursday night when asked about, Josh Simmons, and he's like, well, injuries and this, that. He's like, but Jalen Moore would have to stay healthy all year long too. We can't just assume that, well, Jalen Moore's your left tackle. There's 17 games
for sure.
Or, 20, 21 games that he's going to have to play at left tackle. So, man, that would be a dream scenario. If Josh Simmons comes in and you're like, how do you not play this guy at left tackle?
Yeah,
kind of like Trey Smith at right guard.
Exactly, yeah. And I believe Kyle Long was going to start that
Yes.
season, and then Trey Smith just took that job right away, and there really wasn't much debate about it. And, I think ideally if you're a Chiefs fan, you want to see Jalen Moore play well and, win that job, because that means good things for next year, too.
Yes, for sure.
Where, you have a logical tackle tandem. What would an offseason in Kansas City be like if we knew who the starting tackles were on both. I mean,
I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, what would we talk
idea.
about?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
no
imagine.
clue.
So I think Patrick Mahomes is pretty good, guys. I'll go ahead and say it.
Yeah, I'm
That's
sick
probably
and
what
tired
they-
of this freaking left guard position.
Yeah.
They can't find a left. They traded Joe Tooney, and now they're screwed. They can't find a good left guard. Yes, tackle's taken care of, whatever. But this left guard position, Brett Veach is clueless. He is clueless. He has no idea what he's doing at left guard.
What would they yell at Sterling about? We'll never know.
Yeah,
Sterling?
someone has to
You'll
yell at
figure
me.
something out. You'll
I'll
figure
figure something. I'll figure something that people can yell at me
Here's
for.
the thing, Price. It's like nobody is as happy as Sterling is and
True.
always walks into a room as cheery and jubilant as he is. We do have to bring him down a peg or two to bring him down to our level of unhappiness. So that's just life. That's what you get for being so happy, Sterling. You're the dummy for doing that.
Yeah, I guess I should be sadder.
Be like
or-
us. Blend in. Stop being the nail that sticks out. You're going to get hammered down, buddy.
I like nuance too. I'm a nuanced man. They call me Sterling Nuanced Holmes. That's my middle name.
It's not. Nobody calls him that.
I think it's the mustache, honestly.
It's the mustache.
It's the
Guthrie.
mustache.
We learned the other day too.
What's that?
I said
Hey,
it's
you
Guthrie. That we
remember.
learned the
I
other
thought
day
it's-
as well.
His middle name is Guthrie.
He remembered.
I forgot it.
Oh,
I should remember because of Jay. I'm going to remember it now because of Jeremy Guthrie. I will never forget your middle name is Guthrie.
There we go.
Price, what's your middle name?
Andrew.
Price Andrew. Pack.
Yes.
P-A-C. Pack. There you go. So Andrew. I was surprised when Dylan, his first and middle name are the exact same. You know what Dylan's middle name is?
What is it?
Dylan.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, does he go by
Dylan.
his middle-
Nope.
Yep.
Dylan Michaels.
Nope, he had it. I'm John Dylan Michaels, so I wasn't Dylan John Michaels. So
We had a friend in high school that we always called Paul. And Paul Young, like, dude, what's your middle name? He's like, Paul. Like, dude, your name is Paul? And for the next 4 years, that's what everybody called him, Paul.
My parents gave me the Andrew in case, because Price is kind of a unique first name.
I
in
like
case,
it.
case I hated it, that I could just go by Andrew. So
Makes sense. Hey,
Nice bailout there.
Well, how about that? As a child, they're already giving you choices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
Sterling.
great.
So they said, what about you can go by Guthrie? So
You don't have a choice there, buddy. You are screwed. Not the underrated pick as we talk about and joke about those things, but I do wonder from your standpoint, we talk about Josh Simmons and the risk worth taking and what an ideal scenario would be if he gets there, he's fully healthy, and it's like, well, they got a decision to make on who's going to start left tackle and right tackle and all of that. The rest of the draft, is there a pick that sticks out to you that is the value, fit, selection, position, all of that, that is your favorite? And if it's Josh Simmons, we'll set him aside and go with somebody else.
Yeah, I think the best value that they found was Jalen Royals. This is a guy that I really saw as a day 2 wide receiver, especially in that second or third round. And them being able to, one, sit and wait and be patient and not trade up, which, we saw them maneuver the board quite a bit. They did a good job of trading down in the first round. I would have loved to have seen them retain that Joe Tooney pick, which they did not. That's okay, I guess. But to be able to sit there and wait and still get a guy like Royals, who I think had some of the best trajectory of a player in this class as far as how can he fit into an offense. Because when I look at players, one of the things that I try to find is do they have an NFL trait that's ready to go that could translate day one? And that's one of the things when I looked at Sky Moore kind of in hindsight, he was just kind of good at a lot of stuff. So nothing really stood out. Whereas Royals, his yak ability is something that I think is a day one skill set. And we saw that with Rashee Rice, his rookie season, whenever they essentially needed bodies to catch the ball. They're like, hey, we'll get you the ball however, man. You can at least go make plays that way. So Royals is definitely my favorite pick as far as the value goes. And also, I was just really glad to see that they continue to invest in the wide receiver room. I was afraid that they were going to look at Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice coming back and just say, hey, this was the vision last year. It was good enough last year. Let's do it. Because, I'm a big fan of keeping Patrick Mahomes happy. That's the most important thing here in Kansas City. As long as he's here, we want him to be happy and to have lots of weapons. And I think Royals makes a lot of sense. He's another one of those kind of 6 foot, 205 guys. The offense that they run at Utah State's really unique, where he played a lot of X, but it's more slot-like because they run such wide formations where he's almost touching the boundary line, and they work to the inner part of the field. There's a lot of design touches and screens and stuff for him too. But this is a guy who fought a foot injury and still was a 4.4 speed guy. So I really like that pick. I think that there's a ton of translation there. And one thing that I want to point out too is we talk a lot about the Chiefs, they need this X. That was one of the things I saw all the time when I wrote mock drafts. It's well, you don't give them an X receiver. It's well, they've got 4 or 5 guys who can do that. Last year, Xavier Worthy ran more snaps out wide. Rashee Rice, in both years that he played in Kansas City, ran more snaps out wide than in the slot. Same goes for him at Utah State, is that he ran out wide. So they have all these guys can move in the slot, but also move out wide. Same with Hollywood Brown too. So they've got a lot of like mix and match that they can do. Everyone's going to need their slot snaps. Kelsey even does that too. But I think that there's a lot of things that he can do, and maybe this year they're not relying on a rookie. It'd be great if, Royals just kind of grows into the role instead of like, hey, buddy, it's week 6. We're counting on you.
Back-to-back years they've had to do that. Yes. Hey, Rashee Rice, you're going to have to grow into this because there's nobody else to do that, because the hope around Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore developing in the 2023 season, like these guys are going to be number 1 receivers, and Rashee Rice is going to just be able to come along slowly, and you've got Kelsey, so you feel good about that. That didn't work out, so it had to be Rashee Rice, and luckily he did step up. And then last year we know about the injuries, and it was like, okay, well, Xavier was supposed to be a guy that was making a difference by attention being drawn to him and helping others create a mismatch. Now he's got to be a production receiver along with that. Well, that's not the role that we thought he was going to play. It is a good point. It'd be nice if Jalen Royals as a rookie comes in and it's like, yeah, just do what you do as the 4th receiver on this team and 5th option if that's what he ends up being.
Has the Andy Reid playbook been able to be shrunk for some of these wide receivers? Because that was the whole talking point originally, was you can't have success as a rookie wide receiver. And now we've seen back-to-back years. I know Rice, it was about halfway through the season before he took off. Xavier Worthy, it was a few games, but still.
Well, I think the playbook to me, and Price, you can weigh in on this too, the difficulty of the playbook for me, yes, there are areas where, this play, that play, it's part of reading the defense and adjusting off of that. Where the specific spot lining up out wide or in the slot, you need to be away from the line of scrimmage, how deep you run certain routes, things like that, those details that I can't remember who it was that was talking about that from college. It was one of the rookie receivers the last couple of years that had said, like, well, even like how far wide you have to be, like there's such a specificity to where that has to be. But what they ended up doing with Rashee Rice was at the end of the season, just run a slant, put him in space. Okay, yeah, we can get into intricacies there, but they're playing over the top. They're not letting us go deep. Throw a wide receiver screen. Let's get Rice in motion. Let's get a mismatch here. Quick slant. Let's do that. And if that's what Jalen Royals ends up doing, and that's why it was easier for him to get used to the playbook, well, then for Rashee Rice, then that's fine. Maybe that's part of, well, is the playbook easier? Well, maybe not easier for a guy like Sky Moore that has to run the specific routes in a specific way to get open, as opposed to Rashee Rice that was put the ball in his hands, in space, let him go to work.
Yeah, I think like right now the offense that Royals is coming from is a lot closer to like Sky Moore's offense, where it's a lot of backside RPOs, 1 and 2 read offenses. And I mean, a lot of his productivity does come from vertical stretch stuff. Like, I think that's an underrated part of his game, is that like he's pretty explosive down the field. I think his trajectory is going to be a lot different than it was with Xavier Worthy, where you have Steve Sarkisian's offense from Texas. The Chiefs regularly steal from that offense. Like, that's one of the few college guys that they go and look at. And very early in the process, you heard them talk about how smart Xavier Worthy was football-wise. I also am hopeful that between the addition of Royals and Brashard Smith, who are both guys that you can get going early in the game and get them in the intermediate to shallow parts, maybe this is a precursor to getting Xavier Worthy involved more down the field. We saw that be his role early in the season, and then when they lost Rice, a lot of it became more gadgety type of stuff.
True.
And then, obviously this game was a blowout. I try not to think about it, but maybe it looks a little bit more like the Super Bowl did, where like he's making plays.
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with what happened in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure the Chiefs were paying attention to it either, honestly. But if that's what it could be, then you can see the vision of like, all right, we've got Royals who can do some of the yak stuff. We've got Rice who can be that power slot. We've got Brashard Smith we can use on design touches. It starts to all piece together and make sense. So Royals was definitely one of my favorite picks, but I will also say I will commend them for the Jeffrey Bassa pick.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone in the world was pounding for them to take a running back there. And at the time, it seemed to make a lot of sense. But then you go through the 7th round and you look at the running backs, you're like, wow, there were still a lot of guys that were on the board, and they ended up still getting a pretty good player. I don't think he's as complete of a player just because of the size concerns and also just the lack of experience at running back. But, like, Damian Martinez won a few picks before. That was a guy that they had in on a 30 visit. I thought that's who they're going to take in the 5th round. But they go get, like, what a lot of people had as their 4th or 5th linebacker, a guy who will make an instant impact on special teams. And I do think can fill into the Willie Gay role this year. Now, much smaller than Willie Gay. But the chase run element of his game, that translates really well. I worry a little bit about Boss's ability to shed blockers, like if an offensive lineman or a tight end get their hands on him. I didn't see a lot of that from him. Granted, he was playing Mike at Oregon, but another guy who I think has trajectory still available to him. And they said, hey, this is the best player on our board. We're going to take him here, and we'll just wait on running back. And I think, being able to trade out that Mr. Irrelevant pick and go get Smith, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
So I like the way that they maneuvered the board.
I wonder, too, like, as the 5th round was developing and watching it, and I don't know where DJ Giddens was on their board. I don't know if he was higher, but he went 5 picks right before Bossa. So we went pick 151. Chiefs went 156 at Bossa. If he's there, is it not, like, again, this is just a hypothetical. Like, if he's there, is it not some drastic difference? Like, it might have been, well, Giddens is up here, and then Brashard Smith and Bossa's there. Well, there's Giddens. So now the one guy that's left here is Bossa. Like, I don't know what they would have done if Giddens was there, if it's somebody that they even liked. But when he went 151, I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, and one thing that I talked a lot about on our show is that, like, I felt like the Chiefs were going to tell us what they thought about their running back room by who they took. It seemed like, and maybe we're just working back from the conclusion here of it being Smith, but it felt like, okay, well, maybe they actually have some pretty good confidence still that Pacheco is going to get closer to the version of himself that he was before. Because if we rewind the clock to this time last year, no one's in here pounding the desk saying the Chiefs have to get better at running back. In fact, most people would be probably coming to Pacheco's defense and saying, like, hey, this is a good enough back.
I wanted them to get faster.
Yes.
Last year, I just wanted them to find some juice. Been searching for that Jerick McKinnon since he lost a step. So
Absolutely.
it's like, from 2023, it's like, man, they need somebody with some explosiveness because Pacheco's fine in what he does, but can I get a third down back with some explosiveness?
Yeah, and I think, like, going back to the Giddens point, look at where he landed. He landed behind Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the team that drafted him necessarily is seeing him as like, hey, this is our new bell cow.
Yeah.
He's kind of behind a guy who honestly profiles pretty similar to him with Jonathan Taylor. So I don't know. Maybe that's one that we misread. Like, I loved him. He was my running back 5 going into the class. I would have loved to see him, and I know, again, going back, like, a lot of people probably would have liked to see Devin Neal, too, and he didn't go until the 6th
round, yeah.
And a team that has Alvin Kamara. So it was interesting to see how the running back class played out. I think that there'll be a lot of 7th-round rookies that actually make an impact. I thought Ja'Cory Krusky-Merritt going to the Commanders. Wouldn't be surprised if I'm putting a waiver claim in on him on fantasy football here in the near future. Damian Martinez going to Seattle.
Yeah.
Brashard Smith. Like, I think there was a lot of guys there that the value was still there. So the running back class, it played out very interesting, but I'm glad that the Chiefs, they made the guy that they did. I tweeted out a clip yesterday that I saw kind of rewatching Brashard Smith. It's such a Patrick Mahomes play. Not complimenting the quarterback, but the way the play breaks down, the quarterback's rolling to the right, extending the play. Brashard Smith's kind of on this, like, slow crosser. He breaks free, finds an empty spot in the zone, and he hits him on the run. And it screams Patrick Mahomes. It screams that type of system, and you love that wide receiver background. Also, another play that I thought of when I thought of Brashard Smith, speaking of Jerick McKinnon, the touchdown that they scored in Germany. They're like 3-by-2. Originally, McKinnon starts on the backfield. They motion him to the slot. He runs just a slow cross across the middle of the field. He's just wide open in the middle there and has the speed and the route running ability to go and score there. Really nice, easy pick route. And, like, that's the type of thing that I would like to see be back on that. So the McKinnon comp, it's one that makes sense. And obviously it's easy to see with the number 1, right?
Right. When you tweeted out that clip and you were like, you can absolutely see Mahomes and Smith making this play, and you see the guy rolling to the right, escaping, getting away from pressure, and then firing to a running back that's on a slant route that's also sort of adjusting, and it's number 1. I'm like, oh yeah. Because we've seen that before with Mahomes rolling to his right and then firing it to – there was a touchdown, I think. I can't remember who it was, but he was rolling to his right. McKinnon flashed, and he throws it. Number 1 catches it, at the 5-yard line, goes into the end zone. I'm like, oh, yeah, that number 1, maybe it does some things with your eyes, but I see Jerick McKinnon there, and I'm pumped. I'm really pumped about what he can do for this offense, man. He shouldn't have been there in the 7th round. That's my takeaway.
He's another guy that I got yelled at on the internet for. Brashard Smith. Remember how I said he's going to be a Pro Bowler or All-Pro, but I said he's slightly undersized? Someone goes, well, you know who else was undersized? Jamal Charles. Have faith in him. I'm like, I just said he's going to be a Pro Bowl returner. But, I guess because I didn't say he's Jamal Charles. That's on me, guys. That's on me. That's on me. I know
it is on you. You should say it every time.
I know we're talking about this as far as Brashard Smith and his receivers, especially in the red zone. Do we see him line up even, 20 to 20? Do we see him get motioned out of the backfield? I know some of the questions come from, maybe lack of pass protection because of he hasn't done it a lot. I mean, what's the path for him getting on the field early on for KC?
I wonder if it's not at first a little bit more design touches, whether it be like a draw or something like that, or maybe they use some sweep action where like he's got the speed on outside zone. He's immediately probably your quickest running back on the. And I do wonder a little bit, like Kingsley Suamati is highly athletic for a guard. They bring in Elijah Mitchell, which the Shanahan offense has gone more gap and duo centric over the years since they've brought in Christian McCaffrey. But when Elijah Mitchell was at his best, that was a lot more outside zone. So maybe we start getting some more of the outside zone action.
Let's hope.
Pacheco struggles there because of the wait. Okay, make the cut in. But Kareem Hunt can. He just doesn't quite have the speed to get out there.
Right.
He's the one that I kind of wonder about in this all is like, how does his role play in? Like, is he the third down back? Because he's probably the best pass protector on the roster right now. Obviously, short yardage, he was almost money every single time in that role. So maybe that's where he plays out. But yeah, I think that there's a role for Brashard Smith where it's, the 2017 Tyreek Hill kind of comes to mind a little bit. Obviously, no one's Tyreek Hill as far as explosiveness goes and speed, but he was kind of a gadget-esque player that they were able to use. I don't expect to see a ton of Brashard Smith between the tackles because that wasn't necessarily his strength at SMU. I think outside was definitely where he's best. And I think he'll grow in that role too. But my guess is just like a lot of these other rookies, his role will kind of increase. And if we know something about how the running back room has played out lately, you can expect injuries, right? So Isaiah Pacheco probably not going to be able to play a full 17 games because he just hasn't been able to yet.
And he's just that physical too.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of contact.
And I think like watching him and Kareem Hunt run, it's so interesting because like Kareem Hunt has been pretty darn durable over his career. But you wouldn't describe him as a scared runner. Like he powers through guys.
Right.
There's just something about the way Pacheco, it's like the difference between like bracing for a car crash or just like getting in a car crash and not knowing what happened. Pacheco just flails, right? So like he just doesn't protect his body as well as Kareem Hunt does.
Yeah, sometimes you can get sideswiped in a car accident. He likes the head-on collisions. He's like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and demolition derby
those,
this thing.
The little like markers that they put on the crash test dummies, like that. That's what needs to be on the side of his helmet.
Visiting with Price Card. You got another segment in you?
Absolutely.
Awesome. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue hanging out with Price Carter from Arrowhead Addict, talking some Chiefs football, some draft. I also want to get into a couple of undrafted free agents and also that seventh rounder. We're talking about Brashard Smith. I want to talk about a few others, but how the seventh rounder ended up going and trading a couple of picks to get him and the logic and the theory behind that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. 810 is the text line. Hanging out with Price Carter, Arrowhead Addict, talking about the Chiefs, the draft, and rookie minicamp and everything, the phases of OTAs going on. We've discussed Josh Simmons and Jalen Royals. We've talked a little bit about Bossa. We've talked a little bit about Brashard Smith. Let's talk about those defensive players in the second and third round that the Chiefs got. Omar Norman Lott, wide variance of how people think about that. Ashton Gelati seems to be across the board. Excitement for him. Noah Williams, sort of the same thing. The only pushback for Noah Williams is that you essentially gave up Joe Tooney to move up the 10 spots to get him. Let's hope that works out. I think it will. I think he's a high floor guy, and we know about the interceptions. What do you think of the three moves that they made there on the defensive side? Two at the defensive line position, and then Noah Williams at cornerback.
Well, let's start with probably the most talked about, which is Omar Norman Lott.
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of myself. I did a formal evaluation of every guy the Chiefs drafted this year. This is my first year of going 7 for 7 or whatever their picks were, and Lott was one of my guys. Every year I write Price's picks, my favorite guys. And I loved him because I saw him as a mid-round guy who does something so well. Again, going back to that, what do you do well? What is your trait? And I saw a guy who's a really refined pass rusher for what he is. I see kind of shades of Milton Williams, which is a guy who just got $100 million guaranteed. Or I guess it's not guaranteed, but $100 million from the Patriots.
Contract, yeah.
But I was a little surprised with how early he went. One thing I'll point out is a couple years ago when the Chiefs really hit their draft hit a home run with their draft, they basically were lining up with the PFF board a lot. PFF loves Omar Norman Lott because of the rate stats. Now, it's pretty easy to have a high pass rush win percentage when you play 17 snaps a game because if you get pressures on two of them, you're already doing pretty good versus playing 30, 40 snaps. And then, we know what the advantage is there where you're playing against an offensive line that's on snap 8, 9, 10 of a drive, and you come in fresh off the bench and can just, pin your ears back in a pass rush situation. My take on him is a little bit different. I know a lot of people are worried about how inconsistent he was. Is he going to be able to hold up against the run? I'll be honest, I don't really care about that stuff. What I do care about is if he can come in and be the ass kicker that he was in pass rush situations, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But he has to be able to do that. If he's not going to be this pass rushing force that you can bring in on third down situations, because I'm very confident in Steve Spagnuolo being able to protect themselves against the run, especially in the pros where they don't run the ball as much. They're going to get a situation where they've got a Minihue, Lott, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, and then they mug Nick Bolton up in the A-gap. It's hey, we just created one-on-ones for every single one of these guys. We're going to bring them, and someone's going to win there. And I love that idea. But he's got to be that pass rusher. You can deal with some of the inadequacies against the run and some of the inconsistencies on a snap-to-snap basis because there are plenty of examples of him getting stood up in one-on-ones because he is a smaller, lighter guy, right? He's 6'1", about 291 pounds. He doesn't have the best anchor. If you go back to what does Chris Jones does well, he's just got so much natural power in his hands, and he's so much bigger that he can win with leverage too. Whereas Lott, he's super. The first step's nice. He can really change rush lanes really quickly. He's kind of like a Tasmanian devil in there, right? But I also really like the idea of him coming off on stunts and those type of things. So I can see the idea. I can see the concept of what they're doing here. I was a little bit surprised by where he went again. I always kind of write down. This is actually a thing that Seren talks about. It's when the Chiefs are on the clock, write down who you wanted and go through and follow through and see how smart or how stupid you are. So Darius Alexander was kind of the guy I wanted there, but I will say Darius Alexander can rent a car right now, and Norman Lott can't. So there's a little bit more upside, right?
He's one of the older guys. Alexander's one of the oldest guys in the draft.
Yeah, versus a guy who played in the MAC versus a guy who was kicking ass in the SEC.
Yeah.
So I can see it there, but when you couple it with the Gelati pick, I really love the double dip on the defensive line, and I really can kind of see what they're doing where they're trying to get more explosive along the pass rush. They've got edge setters, they've got ditch diggers with Dana, with a Minihue, with Karlaftis, but you get a guy with Gelati who is so explosive and, again, high motor. One of the things I like about him, you look at him and look at the thresholds of what the Chiefs normally draft, you're like, well, this guy's undersized. But when you watch him play, he reminds me a little bit of Josiah Stewart, who came out from Michigan this year, who is a guy who plays much bigger than his size. I'll also bring up Nolan Smith, who was a guy that the Chiefs had some interest in 2023, where it's this is one of those few guys who's smaller but can set the edge because he's got such powerful hands. There's clips of him rushing from the 3-tech to Gelati, and also I know this stuff, it doesn't matter as much to us, but it matters to them. From all accounts, is a extremely high character off the field. Donated some of his NIL money to charities in town in Louisville. A guy that just seems like a real leader. Obviously has a connection with George Karlaftis. So I love those two picks paired together because it's like we've become much more dynamic on the defensive line. Something that, like, hey, we continue to invest in the secondary. We feel that the secondary is going to be good. Factoring in No Williams, we can create coverage sacks, but let's get a few guys who can win faster than that. And let's make Chris Jones's job easier too. So I really like those picks. I thought the value was great. I think I heard you guys talking about it last hour about there was a lot of people knocking on the door for Gelati too.
Right.
So that always feels good whenever you snipe someone like that, for sure. And then to come back around with Noel Williams, the trade up, it does kind of stinks because you basically trade Noel Williams, like you said, for Joe Tooney, even though we know that Joe Tooney was basically a one-year proposition here in Kansas City and expensive too.
Yes.
But this is a guy, like me and my friends, we do a competition of who we think are the most likely Chiefs draft picks. And two of my guys were Jalen Royals and Noel Williams.
Nice.
Because I just thought, like, Noel Williams is so spags. Like, how he plays press coverage, the physicality, the returnability also. And then, boy, it'd be nice to have a guy in the secondary again who is actually a ball hog. Jaden Hicks flashed some of those traits too.
Mm-hmm.
And I continued to say the Chiefs needed to invest in corner because you don't want to be in the same situation you were last year with Najee Johnson and Joshua Williams, who, if you're choosing Najee Johnson over Joshua Williams, that's saying something because Najee Johnson had some really rough moments. I'm willing to give him another year off the ACL. They obviously paid him a decent amount of money to come back this year. But you're in a situation now where, like, hey, we've bridged the gap because we've got 3 or 4 defensive backs all hitting free agency at the same time. Next year, your 2026 cornerback room is Christian Fulton, McDuffie in the slot, Noel Williams. And I wouldn't be surprised next year if they go corner again.
Yeah.
I already did my 2026 too early mock. You know I was on it.
Right.
Tacario Davis out of Arizona, 6'3",
You psycho.
195 pounds.
Good for
mock
you.
drafts need to stop.
No, they don't. You need more of them.
No.
I say
Don't mock the mocks.
Yeah, we just
okay?
need
I'm mocking mockers.
If I could do most of my life in mock drafts, I would. Like favorite places to eat, my favorite children, whatever. Like,
if we were in Boston right now and we
mock
said,
draft your favorite children. Well, what day is it?
well, Deion Sanders does that. It went well.
I think people turned on and thought we were in Boston.
Does he have a favorite?
We're mocking mockers.
Mocking Magas? Yeah, but that's like somebody named Mark, though, is his name's Mock.
Yeah, we're
Boston.
marking like Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
That's right, yeah.
Mocky Mock and the Funky Bunch.
That's right. The selection of... I forgot where I was going. Thanks, Sterling.
You're welcome.
It's always his fault.
Well done, sir.
You said no Williams at corner next year. You said 2026.
No, it was... I remember what I was thinking of. You mentioned Josiah Stewart, and I think that's fascinating because the Rams wanted to trade up to get Ashton Gelati. They didn't get him, and they took Josiah Stewart. So you were like, Josiah Stewart plays bigger than his size, sort of comparing him a little bit to Gelati or Norman Lott, whoever it was. I can't remember who you were talking. I think it was Gelati that you were talking about. And I'm like, well, that's it, because we just talked about with that story from Mike Silver that the Rams were going to give up a second rounder next year to move up from pick 90 to 70 to take Gelati, and Gelati's gone, and they take Josiah Stewart.
And I think, like, when you look at what the Rams have done with their pass rush over the last couple of years, where they go get Jared Verse and Braden Fisk last year. If you go look at Omar Norman's mock draftable profile, which basically takes all of his like combine metrics and his size and stuff and puts them in a spider graph and compares them to similar players, Braden Fisk is one of the names that comes up. So maybe they're starting to go for this profile of these more like power-based guys. And that's something that obviously the Chiefs have always prioritized, but just getting guys who have a skill set that's like ready to go day one. Because that was one of the knocks against Braden Fisk is, well, he's older, or Darius Alexander we were talking about. But they have a trait that's dominant. And, like, something that I've come back to a lot is no pass rusher doesn't have power. Every pass rusher that you admire in the NFL, they all have power as their primary trait. Now, they have other things like speed, bend, pass rush moves, etc., but they've all got to have power. So let's stop trying to draft the next Von Miller, who's a unicorn who can run parallel to the ground, and let's start trying to draft guys who can push the pocket from all different spots across the defensive line, make us more versatile, because we know that they're going to need power. They're going to need to be able to move guys. And also, it just kind of continues to make their blitz packages more exciting.
Yeah.
Boss is another guy like that you could see getting some untouched blitzes where he's got that athleticism that he's just on the quarterback like that. And, Noel Williams, he's another guy that's got that size that can do that stuff. So I love their continued investment in the defense. I know a lot of us, we all want to get back to watching the Chiefs score 45 a game. But I will say the defense is a much closer unit to being the elite unit on the team right now.
I agree.
Like before the draft, before free agency, the Chiefs defense is the better unit. They're keeping that unit a strength, and we've seen here in Kansas City, we've seen the MVP 50 touchdown, 5,000 yards. We saw how that ended, and we've seen how teams with good defenses end. And keeping the defense good, it matters.
No, this Chiefs defense, I think, is going to be really good this year with the depth that they have as well, the ability to rush the passer, the secondary, adding Christian Fulton. You're not talking about Najee Johnson or Joshua Williams getting picked on. You're going to have to go through Fulton, Watson, and then Noel Williams before you, in theory, get down to a Joshua Williams or a Najee Johnson. And maybe Najee Johnson is better coming off the ACL, having another year of training, just like Turk Wharton was as well. So maybe that's the case. But I think the defense is going to be pretty damn legit this year.
Well, and kind of to your point, the Chiefs have gone into that, and because they've been successful in the Gelati type of player with Karlaftis and Mike Dana, they've tried the FAUs or the high upside, Tano Passignos and the guy that ended up Josh McCando's writing
BJ Thompson.
The BJ, I know that's a little different because but still,
that was a fifth rounder. That
point
was
remains. I just think that the Chiefs found something and identified a trait that they think they can have success with, whether that's getting him with Tamba Hali to work out and do those because it's worked. Yeah. Karlaftis with Tamba's worked. I'm not trying to give too much credit to Tamba here, but it feels like there's at least something.
He's helped.
Yeah, and I think like when you look at the profiles, right, the thing that sticks out to me about Gelati versus FAU is the weight. Like there's about 10 more pounds of size on Gelati versus FAU because FAU is a little bit taller than him, but it's also just kind of like where they played and where they won, right? Like a lot of times FAU is playing in that weird thing where he's basically lined head up over the tackle, and that 5 technique versus Gelati won off the edge more regularly, and then like we said, did have the versatility to kick inside. So I really like that, and I'm very excited to see what they get out of Jaden Hicks this year too. He's a guy that the more like if you go back and look at the snap counts through the playoffs, he supplanted Brian Cook. Yeah. He was playing more snaps, and he can run free safety. I know he's a bigger guy, a lot of guy, someone that we think should be in the box, but I'll be very excited to see where he is. And another thing that I just want to highlight is they continue to not only invest in the defense, but the defense stays young and athletic. Right. You know why the Chiefs don't have a lot of injuries? It's because they're not old. Old guys get hurt. They've got a lot of young guys on defense, so they continue to stay fresh there too. And I went back and watched the 2019 before the world ended Super Bowl with the Chiefs the other day just for S's and G's, and you watch that defense and you're like, oh my God, they're so slow. Yeah. You see it versus now when a pass goes out in the flat, you're just so used to seeing a red jersey, a Trent McDuffie, crashing down on that, and they're so physical in the run game. It's really refreshing to see, and I think like the best thing about all this is with the cornerback room, you get an all-pro back in the slot. Trent McDuffie was still second-team all-pro out wide, but like you definitively now have like probably the best slot corner in the NFL.
100%. I'm with you on that one, and I go back and look at the certainly that Super Bowl, but the loss to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game and that defense versus the defense that we see now, and it's like they went from slow and guys missing tackles to younger, quicker, more athletic, and coming up and hitting you and tackling. It was like overnight that they decided enough of this.
We will never talk enough about the fact that Anthony Hitchens led all linebackers in snaps in that game and then never played an NFL snap again. Never
That's
did.
A great point.
And then
and he's the one that sticks out as in like it's just slow and
I still always will feel slightly bad for Hitchens because he was the best in the brutal linebacker room, and so he had to take all the weight of the other bad players on his shoulders because he was the best of the worst. Or was he the worst of the, how would you describe it? The best worst player or the worst best player? But you're right. Hitchens not playing a snap after that was so telling. They had to get quicker.
Yeah.
You had no choice.
And they had to get more physical. Like, there's no more, like, telling signing than the Chiefs going from Tyrann Mathieu to Justin Reid. You've got a guy who's a ball hawk who makes a lot of business decisions, does most of his sparring on Twitter. I'm blocked by him on Twitter for reasons that we won't get into here.
That's funny.
But then they go get Justin Reid, like two totally different styles of safeties.
Yep.
And that's shown through, and they've continued to do that with guys like Brian Cook, like Jaden Hicks. They've gotten a lot more physical since back then, too, and it's helped a lot.
Visiting with Price Carter, Arrowhead Addict. Interesting you're talking about, like, Von Miller and what those guys can do. And like you're trying to find the next Von Miller. Well, how about somebody with power and what these guys have today, because that guy is an alien. And Myles Garrett. And it always reminds me of like, hey, can you find the next Patrick Mahomes? And the answer is no. Find the next Joe Burrow. Find the guy that is incredibly accurate and smart and in the pocket, because those guys are easier, I use air quotes, easier to find than, well, this guy could be the next Patrick Mahomes. I promise you he won't be. He's probably not going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. But can he be the next Tom Brady? Can he be the next guy that, can work from the pocket and just put the guys in the position they're supposed to be, make the decisions, make some big plays at crucial moments and things like that. And so it's like, yeah, can you find the next Myles Garrett? Are you picking first overall or second or third overall? No, then find a guy that's going to offer a trait, speed to power or one particular thing that he does really well that you can play off of as a defensive coordinator. And I know how to work this guy into this particular formation or play or this zone, this blitz package that Steve Spagnuolo was going to have. Yeah, Chiefs aren't going to find the next Myles Garrett or Von Miller, but can you find a combination of a few guys to create that same pressure?
And I think what you're saying there just reminds me a lot of Josh Simmons, right? It just kind of comes back to where we started. This is a risk worth taking because the traits are so special. And because this is like that one time that there is a discount. Like we always joke about the Laramie Tunsil pot bong face mask thing.
Yes.
Right? Of like, hey, we need this to happen for a guy. He basically put on the mask for us, Like that's
true.
That's what the Chiefs needed. And it's an opportunity worth taking. And I don't know about you guys, but when they tweeted out the video of him getting out of the plane, I was like hyper zooming on those knees. It's like, let's see you walk down the stairs, my guy.
Right, yes.
Which also, he looked a little awkward, but I bet those stairs are kind of tricky,
funny.
so I don't want to overanalyze. But
yeah.
I mean, it's a risk worth taking. I guess at the end of the day, you just think about it like, hey, if he doesn't work out, they're just right back where they started. Of like, we don't know what's going on with tackle, which is a frustrating place to be for sure. But it doesn't feel like the weight of the franchise rests on his shoulders because of some of the other things that they've been able to do. And again, because they've made some worthwhile investments there with Jalen Moore and at least Juwan Taylor this season.
Arrowhead Addicts, Price Carter joining us, does a great job covering the draft. Price, thank you for coming in, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely. It was great talking draft with you guys all throughout the season.
Absolutely. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. One more segment, then at 1 o'clock we'll play a little sports or leisure, continuing rolling on this Thursday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll play some sports or leisure coming up in the next hour. One more segment here. And then playing for Johnny's Tavern. By the way, Anthony Edwards, good for you taking the victory lap. I don't mind that at all, dude. That was great. Like, Batman, Superman, Ant-Man, I don't care. Whatever it is.
Wolves in 5.
Wolves in 5.
Batman,
yeah, man.
Superman, Ant-Man, don't care. Wolves in 5.
Don't care. Wolves in 5.
That was that fact or fiction. That was a fact.
Oh, yeah, that was. I got that one wrong. But we had already counted that as wrong, so it wasn't like we had to go back and change that.
Yeah.
Luckily, I won in the tiebreaker. Because
Dylan won.
Not in my mind, I won. Kind of like you in golfing. In my mind, I played much better than I actually did, and so that's the score I'm going to present.
I don't say that. I'm an honest man.
I mean, really? I don't know.
I am an honest
fine.
man.
That's fine. That's sure. That's what we're going to go with.
I have higher expectations going into it, but I'm an honest man. If I wasn't honest, I'd tell you that I'd shot what I said I was going to shoot.
Oh, sure. That's fine. Yeah, but definitely when it comes to the fact or fiction, you're not giving out points for people that were actually right before the fact of what you were going to be.
Well, Dylan was right.
No, I'm talking about your golf game.
Oh, no.
Because I have continuously bet against your golf game and went with the fact or fiction that was against your golf game, and I've continually been right, but yet continually you have called it the opposite of what that was before the fact.
All I know is Dylan keeps winning. Dylan.
Is that right?
I'm going to bring a trophy in for you.
You should. You should bring a trophy in for
Maybe
him.
A plaque.
You know what? 3D print that. 3D print the trophy for Dylan.
Yep. Trophy or plaque, either
You think a plaque? I could get you a plaque.
Like a jacket, like
can
a gold or
Can I take a
green
picture
jacket?
of you wearing like a
Either
suit?
one.
Like a suit, and then I'll make it black and white.
Which jacket would you prefer, the gold or the green, Dylan?
Gold.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're an NFL guy.
It's gold all day.
It's a gold jacket. Come on, man. You got to wear that. It's a gold jacket.
It's very hard. I mean, both of those are, if you think about like all the things that come with it, it's hard to choose because you can go back every year. You're the guest of honor at one of the most sacred places. It's, either way.
And look, when you first get that, like, new NFL Hall of Famers don't get to choose the dinner the night before the Hall of Fame induction.
That's true.
I mean, you win the match. You get to choose the dinner, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's perks on both sides.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough.
That's great, man. I mean, now I do wonder, as an NFL Hall of Famer, do you get free entrance to Canton the rest of your life? Is it a free?
I would imagine. I would think, yeah.
Because I know with the Masters, you get to play Augusta, right? You win the Masters, you get to play Augusta anytime you want. I just want to make sure that if you are in the Hall of Fame, you don't have to pay to enter Canton the next time.
You got to pay the $20 fee. You got to pay.
Hey, admissions are admissions.
Yeah.
Got to keep the lights on.
I mean, what else is there to do in Canton? That's their economy.
No, that's the only thing to do in Canton, let's be honest.
You're going to steal from the Canton economy if you don't do that.
Yeah.
Is that right? You should pay the admission.
So Favre
pay the toll.
Favre didn't pay?
Well.
Time to pay the toll.
He did, but I don't know if he specifically
was it his? He just allocated resources that would have gone to kids in Ohio.
Allegedly.
Of course. Allegedly, of course.
So he could enter the Hall of Fame for free. So yeah, that's good. Good for him. Sports or leisure coming up on the other side of the break. We will be giving away $25 to Johnny's Tavern, 913-3810810. Load up the phone lines, first in, first on, to play some sports or leisure. We'll tell you the categories on both the sports side and the leisure side on the other side of the break as we head up to 2 o'clock on this Thursday edition. A lot of Chiefs talk today. The NBA, the Lakers knocked out last night. Wolves moving on. Told you it was a terrible matchup for the Lakers with the Wolves. Did not like it. People were just assuming the Lakers were going to move on.
Kind of like hockey. Like in hockey, there's like first-round matchups where a team that everyone wants to see move on is just going to have to lose.
And
so that was like the series where you want to see Ant, but also Luke and LeBron.
Yeah. So somebody's going to have to lose, and Ant has been awesome. And Julius Randle's played well, and Reed and those guys, they've played well in the series. So we'll see. 913-3810810 sports or leisure next. Very easy. You get a sports question, you get a leisure question, you get them both right, you win. Either of them wrong, you lose. Sorry. You get one chance at it. Nobody gets an extra chance whatsoever. You get one guess and one guess only, and we are strict sticklers about that specific rule.
Unless I like you.
Well, wow. How about the people that you haven't given opportunities to? Apparently you don't like them. That's maybe you shouldn't admit that on the air. But if you get it wrong, the question is out there available for someone to call in and request if they know the answer to it or they've Googled it, whatever it might be. We give out the right answer when it has been answered correctly or we have simply run out of time to play. That's how we do it with a little game we call Sports or Leisure. Let's go through the categories, shall we? The categories today, we have We Are Witnesses. These are questions that are inspired by Bobby Witt's hitting streak. And by the way, I feel like we should be called witnesses to his career.
Didn't LeBron kind of coin that, though?
Yeah, but his name is W-I-T-T, Witt.
Yeah, I get it, but...
Yeah, but it's Witt is in the name. It's witnesses.
Witness protection program.
LeBron, Witt is not in his name. It is in Bobby Witt's name. We're witnesses.
LeBron is in witness protection program now.
Yeah, that's right. He's not going to be. He ain't going to be
1, 2, 3 Cancun.
Not going to be at the arena anytime soon. Not for a while. But that's one category. We are witnesses, and then also Chiefs draft questions inspired from the Chiefs draft selections this year. We'll have that one as well. 913-381-0810. What about on the leisure side, Sterling? What say you?
We still have Name That Ballpark because
cool.
I got a whole bunch more Name That Ballparks for the last time we did this, and everyone decided they were not going to pick this category, so I'm going to make you pick that category.
I'll make them.
Not actually, because we have two other categories. So we have Name That Ballpark. We have Deep Cuts, which are popular bands with maybe songs that aren't their most popular. Pretty easy concept there. And then the always favorite, Potpourri.
Potpourri. There we go. So you have a couple of categories that Sterling is going to make you choose one of them, apparently.
You got to choose one of the three.
That's what you're going with. That's the way you're describing that one. All right, 913-381-0810. We get into the game of Sports or Leisure. I'm ready to go. Sterling, what say you?
I am ready.
Dylan, how about yourself? You know what I didn't include? I didn't include any Derby questions, and that is this weekend. So
I'm even wearing my Derby hat.
You're
right
wearing
now.
a Derby hat right now.
Yeah.
How about that? I'll be wearing we should wear an Oaks hat tomorrow. I'll be wearing pink tomorrow for the Kentucky Oaks. The ladies run on Friday. Okay, it's for the ladies.
You know what?
The Kentucky Oaks.
I might
Pink
wear.
tomorrow.
I might wear a Seersucker suit tomorrow.
I'm rocking some pink tomorrow.
Just cause.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it, man. And then when Little Man has a tournament this weekend, I'll be wearing like a top hat and a bow tie over at third base, coaching. You know, it's for get on your horse, man. Get on your horse and run. Let's go. Big J journalism here. All right, 913-381-0810 is the phone number. We go to the phone lines. We start off with Avery. First up here on Sports Radio 810 WHB and it's Sports or Leisure. Avery, what side would you like to start with?
I'll do Can I Get a Witness?
Yes, you can. Let's Bobby Witt is the 8th Royals player to have a 20-game hitting streak. In one season, his 21 games, now this is in one, he's the 8th player to have a 20-game hitting streak overall. And we know that the record is either 30 or 31. That's not what we're getting into. But over the course of one season only, his 21-game streak is the 5th most in Royals history. In the course of one season, I bring that up specifically. Name 2 of the 4 players with a longer streak than Bobby's 21.
Whit Merrifield and George Brett.
And one season.
Mike Sweeney. Let's see. Brian McRae had a good one. Ray Sanchez had a similar stretch.
Some of those are correct. One of those specifically is incorrect.
Avery's just naming names.
Well, why don't you just choose to?
I need you to choose to.
Yeah, I was looking at this when it hadn't gotten to 21 yet, and I didn't look at the
in one season,
over more than one season. So
yes, over more than one season is Whit. But as I said, when you said Whit Merrifield, I said one season only.
Okay. So, Brett had 2 on that list, so probably one of them's Brett.
George Brett has the most in one season with 30.
Okay. and then go Sween Dog.
Sweeney, nice job. Third most in one season. Sweeney had a 25-game hitting streak. Nice job on one of the other names you came up with. In Brian McRae had a 22-gamer. Brian McRae had a 22-gamer. And in one season, the second longest hitting streak in Royals history was Jose Offerman with 27 straight games.
Wow, nice.
And then there's another Jose, right? That had a
Jose Guillen. Jose Guillen. Jose Guillen with a 21 gamer over that stretch. That is the sports side taken care of. Head over to Leisure and talk to Sterling, why don't you?
Avery.
Potluck it, or what do you call it? Potpourri.
Potpourri.
You know what? I'm kind of hungry. I'll potluck that thing too. Whatever you're going to bring, I'm interested in eating. So bring it. Whatever you're bringing to the table, I'm consuming.
Which flavored drink is the national drink of Greece? Tastes like licorice.
Gatorade.
Ouzo?
Yes, Ouzo.
Gatorade.
It
You think
is.
flavored drink? Like I was like, they got like their own Kool-Aid out there.
No, yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Once I said licorice, I felt like it was too easy. But without me saying like the licorice part, you would have never. You'd been like water. I don't know.
Purple Gatorade. Purple Kool-Aid.
So it is Ouzo.
Is it purple Kool-Aid?
Which flavored drink, national drink of Greece? It is Ouzo.
Well done. We will put you on hold, Avery, get your information, because Dylan lost it apparently last week. So you're going to have to refresh that. But hold on. You get to talk to Dylan, which is a gift in and of itself.
Cream is going to rise to the top.
I like the different, like...
What was that, Bane voice?
No, I think that was probably Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, yeah. I think that's what he was going with, man. Oh, yeah. Slim Jim, yeah. Oh, yeah. I certainly could use a Slim Jim right now. Got hungry. He said potluck. I'm like, I want some food, man. Hungry. Greg next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Greg, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with, sir?
I'm going to go with Sterling and some potpourri.
Let's go to potpourri.
Potpourri.
What is the name of the coffee shop in Friends?
Central Perk.
It is Central Perk.
Nice job.
I
Central.
hate that I know that.
You know what? Don't hate it. Enjoy it. Embrace it. It's all good, man. I knew it as well. So we're kindred spirits in that perspective.
We're both nerds.
Yeah, that's true. Or both grew up around the same time. Could be. I don't know. All right. So the sports side, we've got We Are Witnesses and Chiefs draft questions specifically related to these picks over the weekend for the Chiefs.
Let's do the draft picks.
All right, let's go with this one. The Chiefs selected Josh Simmons in the first round. He became the 7th offensive tackle taken in the first round by the Chiefs. Besides Simmons and Fisher, can you name 2 of the other 5 tackles?
What position for
offensive
OT?
tackle? Yep.
Boy, it's taken me a long time.
Oh, you're good. You're just fine.
Is he playing now?
Let's see. The other tackles selected, none of them are playing. Although one of them has a relative playing, but they are all out of football now. Some of them sooner than others. If you go back to a Michigan man that was taken in the first round, he wasn't long for the NFL. Rough selection, but 5 of these tackles that they have taken, I'll tell you, since 1980.
Since 1980.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Also, a couple of these guys were part of 2 first-round draft pick drafts, too. I mean, about that, huh? About that. Yeah.
Was Dave Klug OT?
Not on this list that I have. But maybe he was, but I'll give you another shot because Sterling likes you. He said that earlier.
I do like you.
He said it earlier. It's like, it's one of my favorites.
Appreciate it, Sterling.
One of my favorites.
I don't have any idea. Maybe Rob Martinovich.
Nope.
Notre Dame boy.
No, that's not what we're seeing since 1980. Greg, thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, brother.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And we still like Greg.
Yeah,
we still
absolutely.
Like
He got
Greg,
a couple.
yeah.
He got a couple. Chances. You know what I mean? Got a couple of those. 913-381-0810. Lyndon next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Lyndon, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with?
I'll go leisure.
All right, we have potpourri, name that ballpark, which are baseball ballparks, and we have deep cuts, popular bands, maybe not quite as popular songs.
I'll try deep cuts.
All right, deep cuts. Okay, we'll go with You Say Yes, one of my favorite songs by this band, Metal Gods, Grinder, and I'll go Painkiller.
I don't get it. What's the question?
You got to come up with the
Those are all songs.
off of
Those are all songs by this band. You Say
band.
Yes, Metal Gods, Grinder,
but they're deep cuts on their
Painkiller.
albums.
Painkiller's not a deep cut, or really Metal Gods, but they're not the top 5 most popular
You
songs.
say yes,
Metal bands.
I say no.
I'll go.
Rob Halford's the singer.
Cinderella.
It's not Cinderella.
Damn it.
I
wish it was.
Man, you want one more guess
Sure,
or no?
why not? He likes you.
I'll give you one more song that's popular. That'll help you out. You've Got Another Thing Coming.
Oh. Okay.
You've got another thing coming.
You say yes, I say no. You got another thing. I'm just making stuff up right now, so don't listen to me, Lyndon. I don't know music.
Yeah,
so
I don't know. I'm out.
You are out.
Lyndon.
Darn it. Lyndon, thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it. Those deep cuts are out there for someone to call in if they know the answer to those cuts that are deeper than other typical bands' songs. Bob, next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Hey, Bob, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Howdy. Let's start with some leisure.
All right. Do you want deep cuts? There's that one that's still out there, some new ones, or we can do potpourri or name that ballpark.
I just can't leave that one. The one he just answered, I just can't leave that out there. So I'll take the one he did not get.
All right. You Say Yes, Metal Gods, Grinder, and Painkiller.
Judas Priest.
That is Judas Priest.
Watch your mouth.
One of my I love You Say Yes. Everyone hates that song off of Point of Entry album. I love that song, but Painkiller absolutely kicks so much ass.
Good for you. On to the sports side. What was that?
That whole album rocks.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, Sterling likes it. On to the sports side. Chiefs draft, and we are witnesses. What are you thinking?
Let's go Chiefs draft.
All right, Chiefs draft for you. We have a question that's out there available if you know the answer to it. We also have a number of fresh ones.
What was the one that was out there?
So the one that was out there was about the tackles, that the Chiefs took Josh Simmons in the first round, the 7th offensive tackle taken since 1980. And besides Simmons and Eric Fisher, I needed you to name 2 of the other 5 offensive tackles that were taken, or fresh ones.
You can't not say John Alt.
He's one of them. Do you know the other one?
And you cannot forget Carl Peterson and his famous cussing routine with John Tate.
100%. That is absolutely right. Because the hint I gave earlier, they had the caller had asked, "Are they still playing?" I said, "Well, one of these guys' relatives is still playing. That's John Alt." Yes, John Alt and John Tate. The other ones, and I said one wasn't long for the NFL. This Michigan man, that would be the rough draft pick of Trezell Jenkins.
Yeah,
that one didn't work out so well. And then Victor Riley was another tackle that didn't work out so well. But Brandon Albert was a tackle that was taken in that Glenn Dorsey draft.
Glenn Dorsey, yeah. I can't remember the Tyson Jackson or Glenn Dorsey draft.
Yeah, so you had what was that?
Victor Riley. Was it Victor Riley the year before John Tate? They were still trying to hit on tackles?
Yes. Yep, and it was a couple of years after Trezell Jenkins. So I mean,
sounds like recent history.
No doubt about that. No doubt. That's a winner, though. How about that, huh? We will put you on hold. Bob, get your information. Congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. 913-381-0810 is the phone number. We go back to the phone lines and we bring in Ryan to play some sports or leisure on a Thursday. Ryan, what side would you like to start? What sports side or leisure side?
Yeah, I'll do the sports side.
All right, we got Chiefs draft and we have We Are Witnesses.
Chiefs draft.
All right, Chiefs draft for you. That question was just answered, so let's go with this one. Omar Norman Lott, ONL, became the 5th player selected out of Tennessee in the Andy Reid era. The 4th by Brett Veach, though. Can you name 2 of the other 4 players Brett Veach, two of the other three players that Brett Veach drafted out of Tennessee.
Each drafts from Tennessee. Oh man, what year did? Can you tell me what year Veach started?
His first one was 2018.
Just any player drafted from Tennessee?
Yeah, since 2018. One of them still on the team, and two of them are not.
Yeah.
One of them still on the team. One of them should still be on the team if you're looking at the recency of the draft, but that didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
And another one they drafted late to change positions because they thought, well, maybe we'll get something here with the positional change.
James Pierce, the guy from this year, does that count?
No. Drafted by the Chiefs, sorry. Has to be drafted by the Chiefs, by Brett Veach from Tennessee. But one of them's still on the team. And one of them should still be on the team, but he's not. He's not. Wasn't on the team very long at all, actually.
Yeah, didn't make it out of training camp.
I liked that pick too, but we're all stupid dumb for it. Liking that pick.
Well, I know some Tennessee players, but I just think they're more recent. They're older than 2018.
Well, what do you got?
One loves pancakes.
One loves pancakes.
They do.
One loves pancakes.
Yeah.
Trey Smith?
Yeah, Trey Smith. There you go. Trey Smith from Tennessee. There's one. The reason I said name two is because I thought Trey Smith, name one would just sort of be easy if it was just name one and it's Trey Smith.
The other two are harder.
The other two are harder, but very recent draft.
Yeah, one was a very recent draft.
More recent than Trey Smith. And the other one was, I believe it was probably, if I'm not mistaken.
Kamal Hayden?
Kamal Hayden, nice job.
There we go, yeah.
Kamal Hayden, very well done. A guy that should still be on the team.
Was it Tremont Smith, the other one, or Tremont Smith?
And it's Khalil McKenzie.
Khalil McKenzie.
That they moved from defensive tackle to offensive tackle, but didn't work. They threw a dart late in the draft.
Well, wasn't Tremont Smith a cornerback that moved to running back or wide receiver? Or there was something like that.
Yeah, but he wasn't at Tennessee, though.
Yeah.
We will send you over to Leisure with Sterling here.
Name that ballpark, potpourri, or deep cuts.
Name that ballpark.
All right. We will go with... Okay. Opened in 2009, the majority of the seats are green, which is an homage to the Polo Grounds. The interior design...
Wrigley Field.
The interior design is primarily influenced by the Pittsburgh Pirates PNC Park. It's the only ballpark in MLB to feature orange foul poles instead of the standard yellow. When a player hits a home run, a giant apple, which lights up, rises from its housing in the center field batter's eye.
You're going that route, too?
Well, I'd say it's going to be Shea Stadium, the new Shea.
Yeah, Citi Field. Yeah, Mets.
Yeah, new Shea.
Sorry, old Mets Field. Yeah.
Would you have got it before I said the giant apple? Because I feel like the orange poles.
You would have got it before the giant apple.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. But I was thinking at first I was thinking San Francisco, but then you said that too. It made me realize it was definitely Mets.
Yeah. It's a big apple. It's in New York, and it's not where the Yankees play. What do you say? What do you think it is?
Yeah. Throw a dart here.
Throw it. Just take a shot.
I'm telling people.
In New York, not where the Yankees play.
Well, I wanted to do one because people are scared of Name That Ballpark, so I had to throw that one out there so people are no longer scared, and then I'll beat them down with the harder ones.
That makes sense. Way to get people on board to go for the category you want them to. Nice job,
Smart.
Matador. Here's that red towel. Gotcha, idiot. We will put you on hold, Ryan, to get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's another winner, 913-381-810, giving away $25 to Johnny's Tavern today in sports or leisure. We'll take a timeout, come back. We continue playing those on hold. We'll get to you first up, first on, 913-381-810. More Zone with sports or leisure next. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels on a Thursday edition of The Zone, playing some sports or leisure. $25 to Johnny's Tavern. We give away 10 area locations, including Lawrence and Topeka, for Johnny's Tavern. Tonight, right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Hey, you said L.A. was out of the playoffs. Well, one team is, because Denver is taking on the Clippers. Clippers still playing. We got that for you right here.
Clip
Going
show.
up tonight. Yep, that's right. Clip show. And the Denver Todd's Nuggets are going to be on the radio tonight. So if you're looking forward to listening to Todd's Nuggets, you can listen to it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Can't wait to watch Katino Mobley and Corey Maggette
100%,
and Elton
dude.
Brand play tonight.
Yeah, dude.
Maybe
Cannot
Chris
wait,
Kaman
man.
as well. Yeah, it's gonna be.
Dude, it's going to be so cool, man. It's going to be so cool. That game for you right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Let's get back into the game of sports or leisure categories. We refreshed them for you. We have Chiefs draft. Couple of questions left from the Chiefs draft. The draft picks this year inspired questions for the Chiefs draft. And then we are witnesses. These are questions inspired by one Robert Baseball Jr. 913-381-0810, the categories on the leisure before we go back to the phone lines.
We have named that ballpark.
Do
we
it.
have potpourri, and we still have a few left in deep cuts.
Let's
Popular
do it.
bands,
All right.
less popular songs.
All right, we go back to the phone lines and we talk with Dustin, playing some sports or leisure. Dustin, what side would you like to start with, man?
Hello, gentlemen. Let's start with Chiefs draft.
All right, Chiefs draft for you. You know what? Let's go with this one. The last time the Chiefs selected a player out of Cal, as Noel Williams was selected, the last time the Chiefs selected a player out of Cal in the first 3 rounds, he ended up being a Hall of Famer. Who was it? Last time the Chiefs selected a player out of Cal in the first 3 rounds. That guy is now in the Hall of Fame. They also traded up for him, too. How about that?
Yeah.
Last time the Chiefs traded up for a player from Cal, that guy went to the Hall of Fame.
Trade up or rise up?
You could do that, too. Not sure.
That's a pretty good hint right there. Dylan liked
That's
that
fine.
hint.
I mean, it's if you already know the answer, it'd be a good hint. You know what I mean? Like, we know the
Rise
answer.
up makes you think Andre Rison. I don't think
See, exactly right.
No.
So
It's
that's why I said it's a difficult hint. If
Noted
you know the,
NFL Hall of Famer Andre Rison, of course.
Yeah, but no.
Bad
that's,
move.
But that's sort of the point, as he said. Like, it makes me think Rison if you're saying that. But no, you'd have to know the connection with this player already to then, or connection to a team with that to then get the player.
Well,
it's a difficult
It makes
hint.
sense.
It does make sense as a hint, but I don't know that it's going to get him closer to the answer is what I'm saying.
Was it? No, John Cherry wasn't from there. He's not Hall of Fame either.
You will occasionally see him still on your television.
Yeah, that's true. You still see them. Yeah, that's true. Or your streaming device, whatever. Do that too.
He helped bring a rule change
Is that right?
about
Did
in
he
the
do that?
NFL.
You want to give any more hints there with my question? Huh?
Trying to help you.
I have no idea.
This is a tough one to give hints for because I kind of feel like, you know, I mean, Chiefs drafted players that ended up in the Hall of Fame. But throw a dart. Who do you think? Last player from Cal, the Chiefs drafted up or traded up for, and in the first 3 rounds, is in the Hall of Fame.
I have no idea. No, was it from Nebraska?
Nope, not from Nebraska. Not at all.
I have no clue. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, Dustin, thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it. And get ready to kick yourself because you will do that once you hear the answer to it. John, next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. John, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with?
Well, we'll start with that last question on the sports side.
All right. Who was it?
Well, it's the one of the backcourt mates of Jason Kidd's, right?
That's exactly right.
Basketball player, right? Tony Gonzalez.
Tony Gonzalez from Cal is the answer. So what I'm saying is the Chiefs drafted a Hall of Famer in Noel Williams. That's the only thing. That's the only conclusion to make from that, John.
And he'll eventually play for the Falcons. Rise up.
Yeah, but after he's won 3 rings with the Chiefs, you know what I mean?
course.
Over to Leisure with Sterling.
Deep cuts, potpourri, and name that ballpark.
So is the deep cuts question still out there, or did somebody answer that?
Someone got the Judas Priest one already.
Okay. Yeah, that's what. So I'll go with name that ballpark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
I love that.
Yeah, now he's just going to tell you the name of the team that plays there, and you can just guess that one, apparently.
Retractable roof stadium. Following every home run and victory, the mascot slides into a home plate-shaped platform. It used to be beer. The park hosted the 2002 MLB All-Star Game, which ended infamously in a tie. The Johnsonville sausage race occurs during each game in the middle of the 6th inning.
That would be Miller Park.
That is, baby.
Yeah, right.
I'm mad they took the beer away. The beer slide was great, and now
Yeah.
it's just a normal ballpark, but
Yeah.
a normal home plate-shaped platform. Bring back the beer.
Yeah, you should. John, you can get some beer over at Johnny's Tavern if you want to, because $25 is heading your way to Johnny's Tavern. Thank you for playing. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely, putting you on hold. Dylan's got you from here. 913-381-810 is the phone number to play some sports or leisure. And we've got Adrian next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB to play some sports or leisure. Adrian, what side would you like to start with?
Howdy, boys.
What's up?
I'm gonna roll with leisure.
Okay, what do you want? We got Name That Ballpark, Potpourri, and Deep Cuts.
I'm gonna go with deep cuts.
All right, Deep Cuts. Black Math, Dead Leaves, and the Dirty Ground. Hardest button to button.
White stripes.
That is the White Stripes.
love
That-
those names, by
I
the
feel like
way.
hardest button to button was the easy giveaway.
Yeah, but those names are just great, man.
I love it. Black Math, Dead Leaves, and the Dirty Ground.
Dead Leaves and the Dirty
hardest
Ground.
button to button.
Which is the hardest button to button? Is it the top one?
It's the one you can't ever get.
Yeah,
whatever
you
one
can't,
that is.
you can't touch that button.
Yes.
Where's that button at?
I don't know.
Can't
It's
find
the
it.
hardest
Either.
button to button. It's the
You know
it's
the one.
It's
You know the
it's
one.
a difficult button to button. It's usually the top one. I don't know. Let's go over to the sports side, Adrian. We've got one left from the Chiefs draft, and we have the We Are Witnesses category.
Chiefs draft.
Chiefs draft for you. One left from the Chiefs draft. Omar Norman Lott, selected in the second round. Who was the last defensive tackle selected by the Chiefs in the second round?
Can I do the other category?
No, you should get
I
this
will
one,
tell you, the
actually.
guy's still playing on the Chiefs. Still playing for the Chiefs. Wasn't drafted by
Yeah.
Brett Veach. Those are two pretty good hints.
Yeah.
Not drafted by Brett Veach, still on the team. There's very few of those players.
Yeah.
Ooh. Chris Jones.
Chris Jones is
Yeah.
correct. The last of it. And
yeah.
what we're saying is Omar Norman Lott, also Hall of Famer.
SEC school, too.
So SEC school, second round pick. I mean, these are Noah Williams, Hall of Famer from Cal. This is these are obvious. They have taken some Hall of Famers in this particular draft.
Yes, he can.
Yes, he can. Love it.
I love it.
Adrian, we'll put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
All right. There you go. Yes, they can. They can draft Hall of Famers. Yes,
they can.
How many Hall of Famers are on this team right now that have won Super Bowls?
5.
Ish? 7.
Ish. That's off the top of my head. I didn't really
I think
think.
it was 7.
Currently on this team.
Yeah. Mahomes. Chris
Kelsey,
Jones. Kelsey. McDuffie.
Okay.
Creed Humphrey.
Yeah,
Rasheed
5.
Rice.
Okay, now we're getting...
Trey Smith. Xavier Worthy. Pacheco.
I like the 5.
Butker. Nick Bolton.
I want to say yes, but I don't think I can.
Tell me where I'm wrong with those
Not the
picks.
Hall of very good.
But Butker,
That's Deion.
Butker is close though. I will say Butker might be the
Very
most
clutch.
intriguing one
Very
of
clutch.
the bunch.
Very clutch. Very clutch. We'll see. 913-381-810. Let's go to Matt next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Matt, sports or leisure, what side would you like to start with, sir?
Let's start with the stadiums, please.
All right. All right. Originally scheduled to open on March 23rd, 2020, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was delayed for several months. It opened for a high school graduation on May 29th, 2020. All 6 games of the 2020 World Series were still held here, making it the first and so far only venue to host a World Series without its tenant playing in the series. It also hosted the 2024 MLB All-Star Game. College football games have been played here as well.
What was so crazy about that particular year, right, is, while Matt is thinking, is we have the Super Bowl that's played at a neutral site.
Yes.
And the World Series is played at both teams' sites. So you have home field advantage. Yet that year, the World Series was played at a neutral site, and the Super Bowl ended up being played at one of the team's home stadiums in Tampa Bay with the Bucs.
It's crazy.
How nutty is that? I mean, right? Totally nutty.
Pretty wild.
It's ironic, don't you think?
I mean, maybe it's coincidental. I'm not sure.
And again,
but,
I think
it could be ironic.
And then again, the MLB All-Star Game last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's the Ranger Stadium.
Yes.
Like Globe Life.
Yes, Globe Life.
Nice
yes.
job. Yep. The
Yep.
Rangers. Tampa Bay. Who did Tampa Bay play in that World Series?
Dodgers.
Well, the Dodgers. Okay, cool.
They won the COVID
Unless you
one.
already said it and I wasn't.
No, but that's the one I always think of, is because I think it's pretty cool that they hosted a World Series with no Rangers not playing it.
Right.
Only one of in Major League Baseball
and
history.
they're like, man, it'd be so cool if the Rangers could do this. Yeah, but you wouldn't want to give up Cole Reagans to win a World Series. That'll never happen. Glad they did. That's the first side. We over to the sports side, right? Sports side, we've got Chiefs draft. One question left there, and then we are witnesses question.
All right, I thought you were out of Chiefs draft. I will take Chiefs draft.
Oh, my goodness. We were out, but I'm just going to come up with one off the top of my head. Mainly because I know this. So sorry. We were out because Chris Jones was selected, but I got one for you. Ashton Gelati selected out of Louisville. Name any player the Chiefs have ever drafted from Louisville.
I thought it was like, name his favorite dessert.
Ice cream.
It's actually custard.
Brownies, obviously.
It's weird. He
frozen
loves
custard.
Andes. Loves
well,
Andes.
if he's in Kansas City, he better like frozen custard.
Yeah, he better like frozen custard.
Because for some reason, this city is obsessed with frozen custard.
Well, because it's good.
Well, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying go to other cities. There's a lot of ice cream joints. You come to Kansas City, and there's a frozen custard joint on every corner.
And by the way, to Philly, it's water ice. But why do I want water ice when I could have some custard?
And by the way, let me just say this. Andy and I, he and I, we got a problem.
Have you ever seen Andy's and Andy Reid in the same room together?
Here's the thing. He and I, we're going to have an issue. We're going to have a heart-to-heart, a get-together. Next time I see Andy, we're having words. On site, we're having words. You know why? Because here's the thing with me, as Matt thinks about this question of any player that's drafted from Louisville like Ashton Gelati was. Here's the thing. If you know anything about me with desserts, okay, and I don't know why you would, butter cake is phenomenal. And I had one of the greatest desserts of my life was down in Tampa, and it was a butter cake, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever had. So Andy, this guy, they now have an ingredient of butter cake at Andy's, and it's so good that I think about it every day. I think about it sometimes when I go to sleep. They've got this little caramel crunch type little thing that's in there along with the butter cake. They can put the caramel drizzle in there if you want to with the concrete, but it's a problem, and I'm mad at them because it's so good, and I think about it often. And in fact, now I start to talk my kids into going to you guys want some dessert? You guys want some? Who wants to go to Andy's for some? You guys don't. You're tired. That's fine.
Back in my day, we always had ice cream.
Why doesn't anybody have iced cream anymore?
I hate that I did that. Matt, please save us.
Any player from Louisville.
How about Colby Smith?
Nice job, Colby Smith.
Wow.
There's another running back that was taken from Louisville too. That would be remember Frank Moreau? Anybody remember Frank Moreau?
I can honestly say I do not.
Yes.
I actually looked up on the list here, and then you used Control F. You went from Frank Moreau in
98?
2000.
Was it 2000?
Yep.
Yeah.
So all the way from there, the next one was 1964, Ken Cordes.
Yeah, no idea about that one.
Yeah.
But the two running backs.
What, but Ken Cordes? I'm a huge, big Ken guy.
So Colby Smith is interesting. He was on the coaching staff when I was there, and I talked to him about the fact that Todd Haley after Larry Johnson did the Larry Johnson thing, while Jamal Charles was on the team, that Todd Haley still, even with Jamal Charles there, started Colby Smith for 2 games until Colby Smith got injured. And then, you know who was left? Jamal Charles was all that was left. He had to play Jamal Charles. Nobody else that could play because Larry Johnson is done and Colby Smith is injured. I guess we got to play this Jamal Charles guy. So sometimes when we talk about coaches and like, well, they see him in practice. They know more than us. They see him in practice. Yeah, he saw Jamal Charles, saw him in practice, and they still chose Larry Johnson, then Colby Smith, until Colby Smith hurt his foot, and then no other choice but Jamal Charles. And the rest, as they say, is history. Matt, we'll put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Thanks, guys.
Nice job. There you go. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, wrap up the show on the other side of the break, see if we have any questions we did not get answers to. I don't think so, but we'll do that coming up on the other side. More Zone on a Thursday. It's right after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB. On Sports Radio 810 WHB, Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, here on a Thursday edition of The Zone. Well, I tell you this much. I got a doctor's appointment next Thursday that everybody cares about, but there's a reason for this story. doctor's appointment next Thursday, and I'm thinking about changing it to today because that's easy to do. You can just change doctor's appointments around, especially like doing it like a week earlier on that day too. Typically, that's easy because it's up near like 63rd and State Line.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, if that was the case, I could just swing into Brookside Barrio and hang out with the program for a little bit.
Yeah.
Give myself some food. Give myself a, oh, sorry, honey, don't worry about dinner with me. I had a late lunch. I had dinner. I had a late lunch. I had dinner at 3 o'clock. I had a late lunch. I had some nice, you know what? I am prepping for Cinco de Mayo, so I went to Brookside Barrio.
Well, what you do is you do that, and then you get Andy's at 7 o'clock. That's your dinner.
See, there you go. And Andy's right there on Warnell Road.
I know. I've had worse ideas.
I mean, you have. You've had terrible ideas. That's a great one. But here's the thing. You think I need any excuse whatsoever to find more Andys in my life? I mean, so good. I'm telling you, we're having some on-site, Andy. When I see you, Andy, it's on-site. Your damned butter cake. Oh, hey, guys, what if we had butter cake as an ingredient? You know what? You didn't ask me. I would have said no. No, don't do that. There's a reason we don't buy the desserts and the cookies and the brownies and the ice cream and put them in the house, because we will eat them if we do. You know where I wouldn't have butter cake if they didn't have it? Andy's. I wouldn't eat it there if they didn't have it.
But what else about her? You keep saying butter cake, but what else about her?
I don't care. Brookside Barrio is where I would be today. That's where Serena's at, so if you want to go by, say hi, get ready for some Cinco de Mayo. Brookside Barrio today. They were at Rancho Grande yesterday. Another fantastic spot. But man, that's called unfortunate timing.
Yeah.
Is that next week that doctor's appointment is
They're a
right
great
there.
outdoor area, too.
Yes.
I mean,
I'm going to be right there next Thursday. You know
I mean, you can't go.
Yeah, I know
it's
that.
It's not Cinco de Mayo. I
But like being there with the ambiance and the show, showing them that I support their show. I mean, I don't really, but at least I want to give off the illusion that we're all on one team here.
You
at
should go
810.
up to him and be like, "Are you on air?" When he's
do
talking, just be like, "Hey, are you on air right now?"
I'm a fan. I like your. Are you on air? Are you talking right now?
Typically, when their headphones are on, is when they can hear everything and respond and definitely.
But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait till I don't know who's out there, whether it's Alex or Marucci. I'll wait till they're not looking, and then I'll walk up like, "You guys, hey, what's up? You guys on the air? What are you giving away here?"
Tap Petra on the shoulder while he's doing it.
What are you guys giving? What's the giveaway? Can I grab this? This koozie, is it for anyone right now? Why can't you hear me? You have a headset on. Take it off. Take it off. And then Marucci's like, "Oh, hey, what's up? We got this."
Someone is going to hear this and do it and blame you for it.
Hey, little man, I'm talking to them right now. All right, mind your business right now.
You just
okay?
call Marucci little man? Wow.
Well,
is he in the same bucket as Everett now? Is he?
No, Everett's big guy. What are you talking about? Everett's big guy.
Everett's big guy.
Yeah, what's up, big guy?
Marucci's little man.
Well, I mean, it's Curtis Stren that are there. I want to differentiate, make sure they know he knows that I'm addressing him. You know what I mean?
Hey, Chief.
What's up, Chief?
Toss Jason a shovel. Got to get out of that hole there.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief. What's up there? Hey, Sport.
Hey, Slugger.
Hey there, Champ.
Yeah.
Hey, Champ. What say you? Can I get this koozie?
What's
is this
worse?
koozie a giveaway?
What's
is
worse?
that coaster for anyone?
Being called boss or Hoss?
Well, I mean, if you're called Hoss, you're probably a badass.
Yeah.
No, what's worse? When they say, hey, boss. Hey, Hoss. You know, like.
Well, I don't know that people call. Does anybody call somebody a hoss that isn't an actual like hoss?
Yeah.
I feel like if you're called hoss, you're a hoss.
I feel like I've been
People
called
like,
Hoss
"What's up,
before,
boss?"
and I am not a Hoss.
Nobody has called you hoss before.
Yeah,
in
this is
your
my
dreams,
point.
Dude.
I don't
Heavy
think
irony.
I don't think that's my point. I don't think I don't like it.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's when I call Everett big guy, or you call a big guy tiny or something like that. Calling you hoss, they're actually insulting
It's
you.
like
there,
jumbo
brother.
shrimp.
It's odd.
Oxymoron, right?
It's called a prawn at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's worse, boss or chief?
Oh, chief is worse.
Yeah.
Because chief seems like it's an insult.
Okay.
Chief is getting into the buddy range.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever there, chief.
Okay.
Not your friend, pal. Not your buddy.
We're sussing
friend.
this out. Chief or buddy?
Buddy's
it's
worse.
still chief.
Buddies. Ooh, you say chief.
Yeah, I still feel like chief is worse. Depends on how it's said, because I call guys buddy. Hey, what's up, buddy? Nate,
you know when
Nate says
it's-
buddy all the time. Like, hey, but Dieter.
I was about to say
buddy.
Dieter.
Hey, buddy.
Hey,
Hey, buddy.
Dieter's a
buddy.
hard one to
Buddy or slugger?
differentiate.
Chief
Buddy
is
or
like,
slugger?
Chief seems like anytime you say that, all right, Chief. Hey, what's up, Chief?
Yeah.
Hey, okay, yeah.
Slugger is
Good one there,
the
Chief.
Bottom rung, like the worst.
You think slugger's the worst? Okay, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Chief or slugger?
Man.
Come on, Slugger is. You can't even say it seriously without coming off as
Slugger,
being a smartass.
Slugger,
What's up, slugger?
Slugger feels like like it's a child
Yes,
though. You'd only
yes,
say it
that's
to
what I'm saying.
you only say
like
it to
a
a
type.
child. So if you said it to a grown man,
Okay.
you're saying it's more.
Which, Dylan, brings me to my next question. Slugger or little man?
Well, I don't know. Probably little man, but I don't know. Slugger is definitely
Little man's
worse.
endearing though
Endearing,
for
for
me
sure, yeah.
for
Oh,
Everett.
okay.
It's a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
man.
yeah.
What's up, little man? Hey, big guy. But it's it's really big guy that I call him. I don't know where you got little man from. I call him big guy. So, big guy.
I think
Little man.
slugger. I think slugger's the worst, but I think in the totality of if you use the voice, buddy's the worst.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, sure, whatever, buddy.
I'm with you, Dylan.
I mean, I
think
feel like
think
any
buddy's
of-
the worst.
Depending
if you
on,
use
the context,
the tone.
any of it with that tone will be just as bad as the next. Like, yeah, okay, slugger. Yeah, all right, chief. Oh, yeah, good one, champ. You know,
Oh, we forgot
That's
champ.
the tone that any of them.
any of them
yeah.
are on the same rung. You know what I mean?
Champ's pretty bad too.
Hey, all right, there, winner. What's up there, slugger?
I think we can all
Chief.
agree Slugger is easily worst.
Yeah, I don't
But he's
know.
a great mascot.
He is. But
So if you're calling me the mascot, then I'm going to go ahead and say
Yeah, but nobody's doing that.
I'll take that over the
and
fanatic.
also, I feel like that points into my argument as well.
Yeah.
Like that's still disrespectful to be referred to as a mascot.
Well, he's a cool mascot, though. I mean,
Right.
Just a mascot.
What's up, fanatic?
it's not like Wally, the Red Sox one, or
Is it that bad? Hey, fanatic.
Fanatic's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Gritty.
What's up, chicken?
I think Gritty might be the worst one to get called.
Is that right? I don't know.
The
I don't,
trash
I
bandit?
would
I don't
love
know.
somebody to call me. Yeah, that guy's gritty.
But not Gritty in the way that you think. Gritty like the mascot.
But how do you
Like,
know they're being if it's like, yeah, sure, gritty. Like, oh wow. you
looking
said
at the
that I'm
NFL,
gritty? Okay.
you look at like the NFL like draft, like the pre-draft process. Yeah, this guy hard worker. He's gritty.
it's a good
But,
thing.
but and they, in parentheses, not the hard-working type, but the mascot from Philly type.
And so you're saying the mascot from Philly is not a hard worker? So you're saying mascots aren't hard workers? You understand how difficult it is to be in that suit all day entertaining kids?
I actually do know.
You've been a mascot before?
No, well, actually, yeah, I was the Mavericks mascot for one day for their video. The one day,
The full day.
for the full day,
Or just did a quick little 30-second video.
a full day. I was in a pool in the alpha on a like an inflatable.
Okay.
I tried playing volleyball in that mascot. It was 100 degrees. I was
That's tough.
sweating hard. I was an intern. This was about
Oh, that's awesome.
what 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Love that they made you put that on.
The guy didn't show up, and so I had to do. Someone had to do it. Show has to go on.
Any questions you did not get answers to?
No, because I spoon fed some of them.
Yeah, same with
We didn't
me as
answer his
well.
question about like what's the most disrespectful nickname.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, is it Slugger?
I'd still go with Chief.
Well, good thing we got to the bottom of it. Yeah.
That's right.
That's the real question.
And so the real issue is that I'm not heading to Brookside Barrio right now, unfortunately. You can, though.